Robert and Norma Featherston are suing restaurant owners Adrian Vulgaris and his wife Lucia Liu. The Featherstons say, while dining at the defendant's establishment, they were assaulted by the owners. Adrian and Lucia claim the Featherstons assaulted them.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 586 and 587. First one in the matter of Featherston versus Vulgaris Liu. Second one, Featherston versus Liu. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
The two of you are plaintiffs. Each one of you has suit against the defendants. The defendants have counterclaims in the exact same amount against you. Both of your suits are for assault and or emotional distress as a result of the assault. And it appears that you, Mr. and Mrs. Featherstone, decided to go into the defendant's restaurant for lunch. Is that right?
That's right.
That's right.
When was that?
It was a year ago in March.
What happened when you went in for lunch?
We went in. I had a container of iced tea, which I took in with me so the ice wouldn't melt in the hot car.
What did this container look like?
A 32-ounce
thermos.
Right.
Okay. So you brought that in with you.
I set it on the floor next to me. We ordered, my husband ordered, they did not have decaf iced tea, so he ordered hot water, and I have tea bags with me to make decaf iced tea. And he ordered a couple glasses of ice, and I ordered iced tea with a glass of ice to go with it.
Okay.
The glasses, when they came, were tall and very thin. The iced tea was warm, and the ice cubes had melted. There was only a few ice cubes in it. The second glass with the ice was only half full, and when I poured them together, I still couldn't get the iced tea cold. Meanwhile, he was fixing his, and his ice melted immediately. We asked for more iced tea and more ice. I could hear the waitress muttering about the amount of ice we were using. She said she would not bring us any more ice or iced tea. We finished, and they brought the bill, and they had charged us for the hot water and for the ice. My husband paid the bill except for the charge of the ice and the hot water.
How much was that charge?
I think it was an extra $1.
Okay, so your husband took that off the bill.
Yes.
And what happened?
He and the owner got into a confrontation over this.
How did that happen? He went up to pay the bill, or did you pay the bill?
We left the money on the table, and I believe that the owner walked over to make sure that it was the correct amount.
Did you leave a tip for the waitress?
I don't know.
No.
No, absolutely not.
So you left the bill less $1 with no tip for the waitress on the table.
Yes.
And then the owner came over, that's you?
Yes, ma'am.
And they got into a confrontation.
Yes.
What was the confrontation?
They were arguing about the bill. I turned to go outside to wait in the car. The front door was locked. I came back. My husband was on the floor, and the other gentleman was kneeling on top of him. There was a bar in the restaurant. At the end of the bar was a phone. I went to the phone and tried to call the police. The waitress kept coming up and disconnecting the phone, and this went on several times till I finally got through to them. When I was explaining what happened to them, she came up the bar and shoved me into a tall rack of glasses. The glasses all came down and broke. At that point, the gentleman came over and tried to get her off of me. He got me down on the ground and held me down there. I couldn't get up. And at that point, the police came.
Did you suffer any injuries?
I had minor scratches and bruises. My husband has injuries, which I have pictures of here.
I'd like to see them, please. Were there any arrests made by the police?
No,
Why is that?
because both parties declined to press charges. I also have...
Who do you claim bit you, Mr. Featherston?
The gentleman I'm suing, when he was down on top of me, he put his teeth behind my ear and bit me. Here's the police report here, Your Honor.
Can I see the police report, please?
And we also have medical bills.
Okay, now let's start with you. They come in, they sit down, you were waitressing that day.
Yes, they put the coupon because we have a coupon. This was for the first time when they used the lunch coupon.
So they had a coupon. What does that mean?
That means one off, one full price and one
You
off.
pay for one, and you
Pay
get
and
two.
you got two.
Okay.
I go to the table, I put the menus on the tables, and I ask them if you like something to drink. And they order 2 iced tea, 4 glasses with water, and bunch of lemons. I look in them and I say, I'm gonna bring the lemon, iced tea, and 2 glasses with water. If you need more, I'm gonna refill. The gentleman look at me and say, you don't understand English, and turn to his wife and said, she's a stupid Mexican working in an Italian restaurant. I don't say nothing. I just close my eyes.
Okay, go ahead.
I go to the kitchen. I bring 4 glasses with water, 2 iced tea, bunch of lemon. And the gentleman ordered 1 cup with hot water.
Did he ask you if you had decaffeinated tea?
No,
He did not.
no, just hot water.
So he ordered a hot water.
Hot water. I take the order, I go to the kitchen, I fix the salads, I put the garlic bread in the oven, take me 5 minutes, I go back in the dining room, I put the salads on the table, I look on the table, all the water and the ice and the lemon gone. And they ask me to refill all the glasses with the water and the iced tea and bunch of lemons. I go back to the kitchen, and between kitchen and dining room, we have a wine racks with the hole for the bottles. I look into the tables. Under the table, they have a cooler. In the cooler, thermos. They empty the iced tea and the water and everything. Even they have a white plastic container, and they put on the lemons in the container. They asked me to refill 3 times. And I said, sir, I'm really sorry. I can't give you more. I'm going to ask Adrian. Adrian goes to the table and says, sir, I'm going to charge you $1 for the hot water like a hot tea. And the gentleman says, okay, no problem. Everything, they finished, and they ask for the check. I go back to the dining room. I put the check on the table. We have the check over here. This is the check. They cross with the red, the hot tea, and also over here, the total was $17, and they make $16 because it was $16.
All right, I have a question for you, Mr. Featherston. Just pay careful attention to me, sir. Had this lady brought you your meal?
Yes, ma'am, she did.
Did she at least on 3 separate occasions fill up your ice and your water, etc.? I'm not saying whether you put them in your thermos or not. I'm just asking you, let's say you were very thirsty that day. Did she come back to your table, serve you your salad, your main course, and at least 3 refills of your ice and water?
The ice, yes, ma'am, for my husband.
So how come, sir, you didn't leave her a tip?
Well, because she added on something that was not on the menu, and I felt like it was breach of contract. She didn't
You
tell
felt as if it was a breach of contract? Are you kidding me?
No, ma'am.
Are you kidding me?
No.
Somebody goes in and gets that kind of service. You go in there, you got a 2-for-1 coupon. The bill should have been $35. Instead of $35, it's $17. You take off $1, but you leave her nothing for a tip on a $35 bill?
No, Your Honor, if she had not locked us in, and if she had said to us you had to pay an extra $1, then she would have got a normal tip, a 15% tip, which is normal in that kind of a situation.
Are you telling me that you didn't put any water, ice, or lemons in your cooler?
No.
Is that what you're telling me?
No, we didn't even have the cooler in there. A cooler is this big. Your Honor, we would have looked like we were going on a picnic.
What? Why?
Just a second. So you walked in with a thermos because you didn't want it to get hot in the car. Is that what you're telling me? You're telling me that you didn't put anything in the thermos?
No, ma'am.
I don't believe you. If you think that I believe that you didn't take that stuff and make iced tea and put it in your thermos, you're crazy.
No,
I believe
ma'am.
that's
I did
exactly
not.
what you did. Okay. I'm not finished yet because you can't put your hands on anybody. Let's see what happens. Let's see how this plays out. So far, you did the wrong thing. 100% wrong. If this lady waited on you and she makes her money from tips, and if her boss had said, add on $1 for the gallon of ice and hot water because this man's coming with his own tea bag. He thinks I'm in business so that he can bring his own tea bag and make his own iced tea. That's not the way it works. Restaurants charge for that, sir.
Your Honor, I've never seen that happen.
Well, you and I have been traveling in different restaurants, sir. I would never in my life go into a restaurant, order a pot of hot water because I choose to use my own tea bag and expect a restaurant not to get paid. They're not in charity business.
This is a difference. All they have is caffeinated.
You didn't ask the question. I don't believe that you asked the question.
We did, Your
Oh,
Honor.
no, I don't believe that you asked the question.
Whether it be IHOP or Carol's or whatever, I said, do you have decaffeinated tea?
I don't believe you asked the question.
I'm sorry, you don't
and
believe
I
that.
believe that you used a pejorative when you were talking to her. She says that you said something very nasty
We did
to her.
not say anything nasty to her.
Oh, no, didn't say, don't you understand English when she said I can bring you one thing at a time? You didn't
No,
say that?
absolutely not. I'm a doctor. I wouldn't speak like that to somebody, okay? I have much more class than that.
If you do, sir, then you don't bring in your own tea bag.
I can't drink caffeinated tea.
Just a second. Then order something else. You want to walk around with your own tea bags out of convenience? That's fine. But don't expect to get it for nothing. That's outrageous.
I never heard
Outrageous.
of that. Okay, I believe you, Your Honor, but I've never seen
It's
it.
outrageous, sir. It's outrageous. You may say this restaurant is now crossed off my list, but you can't change their bill.
But can she change the prices arbitrarily?
Don't go back there. It wouldn't cost you anything different, sir. If you got a bill for $17, just listen to me. According to you, you were going to leave her a 15% tip on $35.
Yes.
Yes,
$35.
that's what's normal.
So a 15% tip on $35 is what, about $5.50?
$5. $5.50.
$5. $5.50. That's what you're going to leave her. So you weren't leaving her a tip at all.
Your Honor, tips by my standard means pleasant service. Tipping ensures pleasant service. We didn't get pleasant service.
No, a 20% tip ensures pleasant service. A 15% tip ensures you get your food thrown at you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert and Norma Featherston claim they were assaulted by restaurant owners Adrian Vulgaris and his wife Lucia Liu. Adrian and Lucia say the Featherstons were using racial epithets and stealing iced tea.
Okay. Now, the doors are locked.
Before the door was locked, I put the check on the table.
I got you. The check on the table, he crossed that off.
They
The boss
coming-
is angry there.
The gentleman coming with the check on the cash register and say, I'm not going to pay nothing, not even a penny, because you overcharged me $1. Adrian says to me, go lock the door, the front door, and I'm going to call the cops. I go and I lock the front door. Adrian was on the phone. He called two times was on the phone, 2 times.
The first time they asked me if is any trouble, if any weapons or anybody is hurt. I said not yet. They said, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Then I hung up and Mr. Featherston came with the check and he said he's not going to pay anything.
Well, he must have said that to you before, which is why you called the police.
I called it because he started getting a little bit agitated. And
Well, why would he get agitated?
Because he had to pay and he wouldn't pay. I told him, you got to pay. There's no way you're going to leave this place without paying. We served you, you ate, you even put in your containers. Then he said he's not going to pay anything. He punched me in the mouth when we're really close to each other because I came out of the kitchen. The telephone is in the kitchen. The glasses are in the kitchen. In order for them to get to those, they got to come into a private area.
Just a second. When did he punch you in the mouth?
When I told him that he's not going to go anywhere, then he really got upset and he called me names.
What did he say?
He said, foreigner, go back where you came from. And he punched me in the mouth. Then I went, leaned towards him to hold him.
With which hand did he punch you in the mouth?
With
sir?
the right hand.
Was he using crutches that day?
No.
No.
Are you certain of that?
Oh, yeah, positive.
Oh, yeah, positive.
There was no indication in the police report, sir, that you were aided by crutches that day. Were you using your crutches that day, sir?
I can't walk without him, Your Honor.
I'm just telling you.
Oh,
that
yes,
there
I
is
was.
no
Thank you. Yes.
There is no indication in the police report.
Because they saw
Anywhere.
me sitting down, period. They never saw me standing. But if you
Okay.
look at the police report, it even states that the money was on the table.
That's what you said. Did you tell him you weren't going to pay the bill?
Absolutely not. The money was on the table.
Okay. Go ahead. So first he punched you in the mouth.
He punched me in the mouth. I tried to hold him so he won't keep punching me. He went backwards a little bit against the wall. Then we went down slowly. He was kicking me from down, trying to hit me below the belt. And he grabbed on my t-shirt and viciously ripped ripped off my T-shirt just to do some damage.
When did you hit him in the eye?
Don't got him in the eye.
Who hit him in the eye?
I don't know.
Somebody hit him in the eye.
Probably, but not in my restaurant.
It's not true. It's not true. He got hit. During the course of this altercation, he got hit right around here. That's where he had the bruise. Okay. Did you have any injuries?
What we have here is a medical report from the scene. This is Lucia's. I had one, but I misplaced it. I don't have it anymore.
How were you hurt?
Because Adrian was on the phone, and the lady goes to grab the phone, and also she grabbed all the glasses, and she tried to grab me, she tried to scratch me. When she grabbed with one hand, she grabbed all the tray with the glasses, and I said, please don't touch the glasses, and please go out of the kitchen. She punched me on the mouth. And
did you do that to her?
No, ma'am.
Well, how did she get this split lip?
When she pushed me into this case of glasses, I probably grabbed out because I was falling.
So that's how you punched her in the mouth?
That must be how I punched her in the mouth.
Must have been. You both believe that you behaved badly that day?
Yes, ma'am.
You believe you behaved badly?
Yes, ma'am.
You believed you behaved badly?
I believe that I defended myself and my property.
No. I believe that there was an altercation in your restaurant over $1.
No, not over $1, Your Honor. This was about calling us names and then at the end punching me.
Oh, I believe that he punched you. And I believe that she punched you. And I believe that they got injured too. And I believe that there was probably a very good reason why both of you elected not to pursue mutual complaints to the police that day. So then you, Mr. Featherstone, you tell me why a year later you decided to pursue this.
Because I didn't want the aggravation of a counterclaim by these defendants here, so I waited till 2 days before the statute of limitations ran out on advice of my attorney so that they then could not file a counterclaim prior to the statute of limitations running out.
You're pretty slick.
No, I'm not slick. My
Yeah,
attorney
sure
told me
you
to do
are.
that.
That's pretty slick. They were prepared to forget it. You, slick, decide, I'm going to wait until the day before so that they can't sue me, and I'm going to lull them into a sense of security that it's all over, and one day before the statute of limitations expires, I'm going to sue them, and then they're really going to get screwed because they will not be able to counterclaim. That's what your attorney told you to do. I think that you all behaved very badly. If I had my judgment, I would issue you $5,000, which is the amount of your claim, and you $5,000, sir, which is the amount of your claim, and you $5,000, sir, which is the amount of your claim, and you $5,000, madam, which is the amount of your claim. Therefore, you each get nothing. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I would never eat in that restaurant again.
LA, watch out for them. They're coming to your restaurant.
I have a coupon for free meal, and I still wouldn't go back there again.
30-year-old bartender Lance Shiverdecker is suing ex-girlfriend, 24-year-old hotel night auditor Dawn Marquis for a loan. Dawn is countersuing for a projection TV and defamation of character.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 40 on the calendar, the matter of Shiverdecker versus Marquise. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
The two of you met, according to what I read, at the place where you both work, which is at a hotel.
Correct.
And dated briefly for about a 3-month period. And Mr. Shiverdecker, during that time, you allege that you loaned the defendant some money to fix her car.
Yes, Your Honor.
You broke up. You want your money back. She says that the money that you spent on the car was not a loan, was a gift. And she is counterclaiming for a television set, which he has that belongs to you, and then for some nonsense about defamation of character. All right, so let's start. When did you give her this money for the car?
It was within the 3 months, January, February, March. I just kept putting money into her car because her car kept breaking down.
Well, let's start with the first time you gave her money to put in the car. How did that come about?
She was like, it was January 24th, I think, I believe, and she was having car problems and stuff like that. She has 2 children, So she kept coming to my house and stuff. Her car was breaking down, so I figured that I'd be a nice guy, give her some money, help her fix her car. She said she was getting a tax check in. She'd give me the money back from the tax check when she got it in.
That's
So
not true.
I just,
Just a minute. Tell me the exact conversation, sir. She called you and said she was having car trouble. What kind of car trouble was she having?
starter was going in her car.
That was the first problem?
No, the first problem was the windshield was broken in her car.
So let's get to the windshield. Did she call your house and tell you she needed it, or were you out together and she told you she needed money?
No, we were out together. We were talking about it.
And what did you say to her?
I just told her, she asked me about, she was driving around with the windshield cracked and stuff, and I told her that, you know, you should get that fixed before she gets pulled over with it.
Okay. She get that fixed. And what did she say to you?
She said she would when she got a tax check money in.
She said, fine, I'm going to do that when I get
Right.
my tax check.
Right.
And you said to her,
I said, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it now. When you get your tax check, you can just give me the money so you don't have to have no problems until then.
and how much did you give her?
I went to the junkyard, picked up a windshield that was $50, and then I went to a glass place like a week later and had it put in for her.
And how much did they charge you at the glass place?
$60.
Did you consult her about any of these costs?
Yeah, she said she'll take care of it once you got a tax check.
No, you keep saying that. Had you told her you were going to a junkyard?
Yes.
Is that right?
He told me he'd call a couple of junkyards and find prices. And I told him to get prices and then notify me, and I was going to buy the windshield with my paycheck, not my tax check.
Okay, so you were planning to buy it?
I was planning to buy it, yes.
Okay. And you couldn't have gotten it cheaper than $50, could you?
I wasn't sure. He said that was his responsibility to look for me. I wasn't allowed to look myself. So he was supposed to call, get prices, and then notify me. I was going to pay him the money, and he was going to pick it up.
Okay. You picked it up, it was $50. Then you took the windshield and had it put in your car.
No, he brought me to a place that his friend owned. And
Just
there
a
was,
second. Did you go to a place and have the windshield put in your car?
Yes,
And did you go with him?
yes.
And did you know how much the cost was?
Yes, it was nothing. There were friends of his that owned the business. What he was initially going to do is he has full coverage in his vehicle. His friend was going to say that they were putting it on his truck and put on his tax as though his truck had the windshield put in it.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
No, it is not. And when we got there, the guy that did it, the owner of the shop, it was a place in Boston, said that, he said, don't worry about it. And then we left.
Okay. When was the next time you gave her money?
It was probably about, excuse me, about 2 weeks after that.
And what happened then?
Her car broke down, and she was tanning or something. Her car broke down, and as her starter, it was a starter. So she didn't have the money at the time for the, for the starter. So I told
Well,
her.
no, her car broke down. Did she call you?
Yeah, yes, she did.
And what did she say when she called you?
She was yelling and upset about her car and saying she wanted to get rid of it. And so I told her I'd go pick her up and take care, see if I could get the car running or whatever like that. So she said, don't worry about it. Her mother was going to pick her up or something like that. So she went and had it towed, or I don't know what she had done, but it was at her house. I told her I'd pick up a starter for her and have it put in for her.
Okay. And how much did that cost?
I believe the starter was $50, and the label was like $115.
Do you have any
I
bills for
got
that?
the receipts right here, all the receipts.
Okay, I'd like to take a look at them. All right, and she gave you the car to go and have that done?
No, we went together and we dropped it off. And she
Is that
went over my
right?
house after.
Yes, we went together. I didn't talk to anybody. I wasn't allowed to go in the place. I had to wait in his truck while he went in and talked to the mechanic and stuff.
Don't tell me, Miss
I don't know
O'Keefe,
what
that you're
happened
not
there.
allowed. You're allowed to do whatever you want. You're allowed to get in the car. You're allowed to get out of his car if he drove you there and take a bus home.
Not without arguing, though. I mean,
So you argue. You don't
lie.
get into his
That's a
car
lie,
in the
Your
first
Honor.
place.
It's not a lie.
Listen to me, Miss Markey. I mean, I read your answer, and you said he was totally dominating you, and he wouldn't let you do anything. So just listen what you did. You complained to me that he totally dominated you when he went and got the windshield for your car and didn't ask you anything, and then totally dominated you when you went in to have the windshield put into the car, right? Then you don't accept, if that bothers you, then you don't accept his offers when he wants to put in a new starter for the car. What you say is, I'll take care of it myself.
And I did.
No, no, no. What you say is, I'll take care of it myself. I don't want to go with you. I don't want you to pick me up a starter. You didn't say that to him.
I told him that I would go and pay for it because he said his mechanic has been in the family a long time and was a good, reputable mechanic.
Are you not following what I'm saying to you? Is it not
Yes.
piercing through? If somebody you feel is trying to control your life, you don't put them in a situation where they can do that. unless you want to accept things. Right?
Okay.
Now, what about this television set, Miss Marquise?
Before, when we started dating, my father had given me it's like a projection television set, and Lance came over and my father was saying how it had to be repaired. He said he knows a friend that can repair the TV, and that him and his friend would pick it up and bring it to his house because his friend lived in the same city, and that it would be fixed from then on. I don't think it's been fixed yet, and when I asked for it back, he said that my father and I gave it to him.
What happened was her father was buying a new big screen TV. He needed to get that TV out of the house. She said it was broken. She said, if you could do me a favor, I'd appreciate it. If you could get the TV out of the house. I had a pickup truck. I said, yeah, I'll take care of it for you. She goes, you can do whatever you want with the TV. I don't care. I just need it out of the house.
That sounds right to me.
No.
That sounds right to me.
That's
Why
not
would I
right.
take a broken
Yeah,
TV
that's right.
and bring it to my house?
You want to know
I
why?
have to fix their house.
Because you didn't bring a lawsuit until he sued you for the money.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
But he wants it now, and you're no longer together.
That's why he wants it back.
So why don't you do it?
Because I offered to do that. If my
Oh, well, let's
television
offer
wasn't-
again.
And later today,
She was my girlfriend at the time, so I figured, you know, romantic little weekend.
It's not romantic when she's paying.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lance Shiverdecker is suing former girlfriend Dawn Marquis for a loan. Dawn is countersuing Lance for ruining her reputation.
Who are you?
I'm his mother.
Step up. What's your last name?
Shiverdecker.
Ms. Shiverdecker, what do you know about this TV?
She was talking to my son on the phone, and he lives with me. And I even called her mom and told her mom that she could pick up the TV at any time. It was broken. It was of no use to us.
Where is the TV now? Just
It's at my house.
is it fixed?
No, it's not.
It's not fixed?
No.
So nobody did anything with it?
Correct.
Fine. Go get it.
Okay.
3 days from today. If you're not there after 3 days, he's going to fix it and have himself a TV. Sit down.
Your Honor, I have bank statements showing that the whole entire time I had over that amount of money in the bank, including my my deposits with the checks. The second time he had the car repaired, my money was already in the bank, and he knows that because when I was sleeping, he went through my pocketbook and looked at all my bank
So
statements.
why don't you give him the money that he spent on your car?
Because when I tried to in the first place, I was writing a check and we were going to pick up the car. He told me no. He said, it's my responsibility. I'm taking care of it. He refused the money.
Well, but he wants it now, so why don't you give it to him?
Because he said not to worry about it
No.
before. So
Listen
no.
to me.
He said it's his
Listen to
responsibility.
me. But he wants it now, and you're no longer together.
That's why he wants it back.
So why don't you do it?
Because I offered to do that. If my
Oh, well, let's
television was
offer
returned-
again. You offer to give him back the money he spent for his car? For your car?
If my stuff was returned to me also.
Just what stuff?
My television.
You're
was the
going
main
to
thing.
pick that up in 3 days.
Okay.
What else?
That's the main thing, yeah, that's it.
That's the only thing. Good.
Your Honor.
Now let me see. Now, that's very good. So let me see the bills that you spent on a car.
And this is-
She wants to give it back to you.
This was a letter that she
Even
wrote me
though
that I was...
She wants to give it back to you because that's the right thing to do, because she says you're annoying her at work. You're annoying her at work, and probably one of the reasons you're annoying her is that you feel as if she made a fool out of you by taking this money. Is that right?
Your Honor, I don't even see her at work. I don't talk to her at work.
$261. Now, you want to take care of the rest of this countersuit that you have, or defamation?
Yes. I work at the front desk at the hotel, and he works in the bar. People in the bar have been coming up to me
Don't
asking...
tell me what anybody's telling you from the bar.
I'm sorry, what?
Don't tell me what anybody's been telling you. That's hearsay.
Okay, well, he's at the bar telling people at the bar that
How do you know what he's telling people at the bar?
a couple of the patrons and a police officer came to
You
me and asked me about
cannot
it.
tell me what anybody else said. That's hearsay.
Okay.
Good. Counterclaim is dismissed with the exception of the television set, which you will pick up in 3 days. If she doesn't pick it up within 3 days from today, you are free to do whatever you want with it.
Yes, ma'am.
And I am awarding you $261 on your claim. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Subjected to people saying a lot of obnoxious rumors about me that aren't true, having to switch jobs and everything because of it, and him constantly beginning to harass me.
If there was any harassment, it was on her part.
39-year-old Pamela Potts is suing her nephew, 31-year-old Narvel Fields, for a mortgage. Narvel is suing for harassment.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 153 on the calendar in the matter of Potts versus Fields. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
All right. Miss Potts, the defendant is your nephew. That's about all I'm sure of when I looked at these papers. And you live in one of his houses.
Yes.
Other than that, I can't figure out why you believe he owes you money. So why don't you explain this business deal that you had with him?
Okay, at the time, I didn't consider it a business deal. The money came in much later. Everybody in the family knew Norvell had a house in Victorville. He needed someone to move in the house because he couldn't afford 2 mortgages. He had just purchased another home. So he asked us if we could move in his house.
When?
We moved about the middle of April.
What year?
Last year, in '99.
Okay, so you moved into the house that you thought belonged to him. Go.
We thought belonged to him, yes.
Go ahead.
Yes. After we moved in the house, we took our time because we wasn't pressured to move out of our home. We had filed a Chapter 7. So we wasn't really pressured. We had it up for sale. We moved into the home in Victorville. As we got comfortable, my husband was paying Norvell $1,000 a month. I would ask my husband, get a receipt. But he was comfortable. That's his sister's son. Oh, that's my nephew. You know, that's my nephew. I had a conversation with one of Norvell's girlfriends over the phone who told me that the house that we had moved in under the influence that it was Norvell's wasn't Norvell's house. It was his sister's house who had deceased the following year, the year before we moved into the house. I don't realize we done moved in a house that's not Norvell. He had told us during those months that we can have the house. He didn't want it, you know, to just take over the mortgage. And later on he would quick deed the house over to me or whatever. My husband confronted Norvell about the conversation that I had with his girlfriend, that the house was in foreclosure. And so Norvell denied the house being in foreclosure. As time went on, my husband said, well, I'm going to start paying the mortgage direct to the mortgage company and stop giving it to you. Well, then Norvell came up to me. He says he was in some trouble. We found out he was in trouble with the law. He had another house prior to the house that we were living in. He needed to get out of his name. He said, Auntie, I have some property I need to get out of my name because I'm in trouble with the law and I need to get this property out of my name or they're going to take it. So he said, well, can you buy the house from me and get a loan on the house because I need the money for a lawyer. He said, and after I get all that straightened out, we'll do the paperwork for the house you're living in. I didn't want the house that he wanted in my name. I wanted the house that I was living in with my family. I have 3 daughters, and I don't like moving. It's very hard. So,
did you buy the house from him?
Yes, I did.
So that house that you don't want is now in your name?
Right. I only did it to help him.
Just a second. And you gave that money?
Yes, ma'am.
To him?
Yes, ma'am.
But now you own that house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Go ahead.
So when December came, I have a copy of that check that I directed deposit straight to Norvell's account. I deposited that whole check in Norvell's account.
And in exchange for that, you got a house?
Yes, ma'am.
So, go ahead.
Okay. So I started telling Norvell, when you going to put this house in my name? Because I still kind of gave him control of the property that he put in my name. I didn't really take control of it. Because he had a tenant living in the house.
What difference does it make? It's in your name.
Yeah. I got a second loan on that house once it was in my name.
What money do you think he owes you?
He owes me $14,957.
So why are you suing him for $5,000?
Because I had to bring him to a small claims court.
Why?
I'd rather get the 5 than get nothing.
That's ridiculous.
Yes, it is, ma'am.
No, that's ridiculous.
I'd rather get $5,000. I'm not going to get my money out of him anyway because he's going to go to jail next month.
Yeah, well, why did you enter into this deal with him
I found all this out later.
Why did you enter into this deal with him at the beginning? If you knew he had to get a house out of his name, that he was in trouble, and you thought you were going to get not only that house, but the house you were living in for just paying rent, I don't understand
No, I never had any intentions on the first house. I only was interested in the house that I was living in.
Then you made a very bad deal. All right, Mr.
Yes,
Fields,
I did.
You want to explain this deal to me, if you can? I still don't understand her deal.
I don't understand it either. But basically what's going on is they're very upset because I'm a victim of my home. And ever since then, you know, I got a tape with her calling my house, leaving me terrible messages and things like that, cussing me
Mr.
out.
Fields, did you sell them another house?
Yes, I sold them a house.
For how much money?
$93,000.
That was the sale price?
No, it was $100,000. Sale price was $100,000. They loan now is $93,000.
And they put down $7,000.
Well, they didn't put up anything. I covered everything.
Explain that to me, sir.
They didn't come up with no money. Out of the equity I had in the home, I covered the down payment for the home.
Did your aunt give you $14,000?
She did deposit a check in my account for $14,000, yes.
What's that for?
Well, she took a second out to give me the money.
For what?
For the home. Because they didn't come up with any other money for the home.
Okay. How much is this house worth?
Right now, I have no idea because it's burnt down.
Did you have insurance on it?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Good.
Insurance fully covered it.
How much was the insurance policy on the house?
$93,000.
And the contents?
I'm not sure, ma'am.
What do you mean?
My
You're not
sister...
Your sister knows how much
my
was the
sister
contents
knows,
of the
ma'am.
house?
The personal property inside the house was valued at $23,000, but the insurance is only going to pay $16,000.
16 plus 93. Is that right?
Right.
So, $109,000. Now, how much of a mortgage do you have on this house?
$903.
No. Will somebody come up here who knows numbers, who understands this, please? Somebody come up here, fast! I'm getting irritated, this whole nonsense.
She owes $93,000.
She owes $93,000. So she is ending up with $16,000 in cash in her hand, right?
Actually, no. She'll get less than that because Norvell sent some kind of claims adjuster to Pam. She signed an agreement for him to get 10% of the total amount of recovery he made.
All right, so how did the house burn down?
I have it.
How did the house burn down?
One of the lady's children threw a burnt towel or something in a trash can.
Norvell has been contacting the insurance agency alleging that Pamela is committing insurance fraud. So the house is not being restarted or nothing is happening. Everything is stopped.
Let me explain something to you. I don't care. Sounds to me like you were all in a little conspiracy here. Everybody was in a little conspiracy to try to defraud somebody. I don't know whether it was each other, the federal government, the state government, the insurance company, but I certainly, in the brief period of time that I have to deal with this case, I'm not going to be able to figure it out. All I know is a house that stood for a very long time all of a sudden burned down and somebody's going to come away with some money.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What are you scheduled to be incarcerated for, sir?
Income tax checks fraud.
And you took the checks?
No, they took it. We split the money.
And later today,
Well, we didn't get along very well. But at the end of the trip, I asked him for my money, and he told me to go to hell.
It's difficult enough traveling with your mate. Traveling with a stranger is cuckoo.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Pamela Potts says she was scammed by her nephew, Narvell Fields, when he sold her his home.
You know, when you get involved in trying to do something to cover up and to try to evade the law, somebody always gets burned. That means he was probably trying to do a scam, but so were you. Courts don't help people when they're trying to scam somebody else and saying, well, we were trying to put over a scam, but I got burned, so please help me out. I don't deal with that. Now, you have a counterclaim for harassment.
Yes. No, I can let you hear it right here.
I don't want to hear it.
Oh, okay.
What are you scheduled to be incarcerated for, sir?
For fraud.
For fraud?
Well, not really for fraud, for tax fraud. Taxing.
Tax fraud.
Right.
Is this the first time you were incarcerated?
Yes.
How long are you going to go away for?
21 months.
Well, what kind of fraud were you convicted of?
Tax fraud.
I understand that. Be
Check
specific.
frauds.
What do you mean check frauds? Explain.
Income tax check fraud.
Explain that to me.
Filing checks for people with Social Security number and get them a check back.
For dead people?
No, live people.
And you took the checks?
No, they took it. We split the money.
I have a feeling, sir, that you weren't terribly harassed. You understand?
No, I don't.
You don't look scared to me is what I'm trying to say to you, sir. And if you're going to be in jail for 21 months, you don't have to worry. She's not going to hurt you.
No, I'm not worried about that.
Good. Perfect. Then your counterclaim for harassment is dismissed. And you, Miss Potts, You go collect your insurance money. That's all. Case dismissed.
Parties are excused. Step out.
I'm kind of satisfied in a way because, like Judge Judy said, I still have a house that I really didn't want, and his countersuit was thrown out.
Oh, it was cool. I came here and got what I wanted. You know what I'm saying? She's a big liar. She got what she deserved. Nothing.
Don't do business with family.
Newlyweds Janice and Rodney Dunlap are suing 41-year-old limo company owner Mark Rhodes. The Dunlaps say Mark didn't provide the limo service he promised for their wedding.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom. Now, this is case number 193 on the calendar in the matter of Dunlap versus Rhodes. Pleasure, Ms. Sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Mr. and Mrs. Dunlap.
Yes.
You were getting married. You hired the defendant to provide limousine services for the 16 people in your bridal party, correct?
Correct.
The total cost was?
The total cost was $160 for the 2 limousines. We did give him a gratuity, and that was prior to the other mishaps that happened afterwards.
Okay, so the total cost, other than the gratuities, was $160 for 2 limousines. And you want your money back?
Mm-hmm.
And did the limousines appear after the ceremony?
No, Mr. Rhodes got to the ceremony, the place of the ceremony at about 4:20.
Yes.
And our pickup time was scheduled for 5.
Okay.
And
So we got there early?
Yes.
Okay.
And he informed us at that time that one of the limos that we had ordered had broken down.
Mm-hmm.
And his solution was he had another car, a smaller car, that he would use to transport the wedding party to the reception.
At 5 o'clock was the large limousine there?
I don't know if it was there right at 5, but it did show up at the church, yes. We were already at the reception then.
Why is that, Miss Dunlap?
Because when he arrived at 4:20, he said he would take 4 of us over, he could squeeze us into the car, and he would take us to the reception and come back and pick up the overflow with the other stretch limousine at 5 o'clock.
Oh, so is what you're telling me that your wedding ceremony finished early?
It didn't finish early. It was to be a half an hour to 45 minutes, and pictures were to follow. We had a very cooperative bridal party, and we got finished early.
So that's what I said, Miss Dunlap. You got finished early.
Yes, we did, but that has nothing to do with the pickup time.
Did he come back, or one of his limousines, drive the remainder of the bridal party from the ceremony to the reception?
It wasn't a direct route. They had to stop and get supplies that were promised.
Just a second. Did he drive? I'm going to let you speak. Did he provide the service of driving your party from the church to the reception?
He drove us from the church to the reception, but not in the vehicles that we had agreed upon.
I do have a picture of the car.
I'd like to see it.
It's a 4-door with suicide doors. It's got a full back seat in it, a lot of leg room in the back, and then one seat sits
It's
up
an old
front.
vintage car. Did you agree to let him do that?
Yes, we needed a ride to the reception.
Well, there were other people at the ceremony,
The entire bridal party's cars were parked at the reception ahead of time, so they wouldn't have to double back to the church and pick up their vehicles.
That's not what I'm talking about, Miss Dunlap. You have a chip on your shoulder. You better knock it off, especially with me. My question was, there were other people at your wedding. If you had a problem with his cars and you didn't want to use his service with regard to this other smaller car that he said, I have and I'm willing to shuttle you back and forth, you could have said to him, forget it. One of my guests in their car will take 2 people, and another guest will take another 2 people, and I won't have to use your smaller 1937 Cadillac. Just bring me the one stretch limousine, and you'll give me half my money back. Why didn't you say that?
Your Honor, all the people had left already to go to the reception. That's why there was nobody left at the church to transport people over.
What was the distance between where the ceremony was and where the reception was?
5 to 6 miles.
How long does it take to drive 5 to 6 miles?
If you have correct directions, it should be 10 to 15 minutes.
So why didn't you, when he came at 4:20, say, we're not going to need your other car. I'm going to call my mother, my sister, my brother-in-law, and have them come back, and then I want half my money back. Could have done that. I mean, my problem is you took advantage of his service, of the service that he said, I can provide because one of my cars broke down. Is that what happened? You said
Yes,
you
ma'am.
lost an alternator.
Right.
Okay, and who did you speak to? Did you speak to either Mr. or Mrs. Dunlap when you got there?
I went in, talked to Jan, and I told him the problem. I said I had a 37 Cadillac right outside. I could take them right now. I'll come back and retrieve the rest of the party when the 10-passenger limo got there.
What did Miss Dunlap say to you at that point?
She said she wasn't happy about it, but I says, come out and look at the car. We walked outside. Rod said I noticed that he was impressed with the car. She still wasn't happy because of the situation she was in.
Okay, so she wasn't happy. Did she say, forget it, we'll get there by ourselves?
No, she agreed to go. I rolled out a carpet. I poured a bottle of champagne for him. Just married signs are on the back of the car, just like all the time. And I proceeded to bring him to the reception.
Okay, now, Mr. Rhodes, Miss Dunlap says that this car ran out of gas.
Yes, it did, on the way back.
On the way back where?
I got back to the church. I do believe it was the father of the groom and one of the groomsmen was still there. The 10-passenger was there. I proceeded to go drive out of the parking lot, ran out of gas. Right across the church was a strip mall with a liquor store in it and a gas station right at the end. I had the 10-passenger push me to the liquor store. The bridal party was in the liquor store getting whatever they want, and I got gas, and we proceeded to the reception.
So at most you were pushed a half a block.
Yes.
That's not really professional to run out of gas.
No, it was unexpected.
I understand that, but you know, you could have stopped on your way there.
Yeah, I could have. I wasn't paying attention.
You weren't paying attention. Okay. Now, at the end of this run, who gave you a tip?
She actually gave me 2 envelopes when I dropped them off at the reception. The bride and groom did when I dropped them off, and I told them I'd be glad I'd go back, spend my time,
and pick up the other 2 people.
Pick up the rest of the wedding party, make sure everybody got over there.
Fine. So what happened?
The reason we gave him the envelopes was because we know he didn't plan for the alternator to go out. These things do happen even in businesses, so we were going along with the situation. Not knowing that when he went back to pick up the rest of the party was a 10-passenger, not going to be equipped with what was promised. There was not a carpet rolled out. He did not open a bottle of champagne for us. We had 4 people in the 37 Cadillac sharing 2 glasses, one sitting in the front seat.
Sharing 2 glasses of what?
For the champagne. We had to provide our own champagne, but glasses and ice were to be provided. That was not done.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
We gave him the tip.
So now you're not satisfied, and you're making a big deal about it. Stupid.
And later today,
She has set up false presentations.
They were called friends, neighbors, and relatives. We were told that we were getting credit for that.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janice and Rodney Dunlap say limo company owner Mark Rhodes ruined their wedding by not providing the service he promised. Mark says he did his best, but that wasn't good enough for the Dunlaps.
So what you're telling me is this car that you were driving in didn't have a just married sign.
Correct.
No, yes, it did.
But yet you still gave him the 2 envelopes as a tip, which signifies satisfactory service, after he dropped you 2 off, despite the fact that you only had 2 champagne glasses instead of 4. According to you, you didn't have the just married sign, and you didn't have the red carpet. Why?
This was prior to the job being complete. He took us over. We hadn't really realized what had happened. He took us over. We gave him the tip. After that is when the car ran out of gas.
I'm not talking about running out of gas. Let's put things
But
in the
that's
order
the
of
reason-
priority.
That's the
I
reason.
mean, what are you here for? If you're here because you didn't get your 2 champagne glasses and you didn't get your just married sign, I don't understand
we
that.
are here
because receive is what bothered you, the fact that he ran out of gas.
That was a big part of it, yes.
Well, that's what I want to know. You annoyed because you ran out of gas.
And the fact that the wedding party had to go separately. We planned for the wedding party to ride together for an hour after the ceremony. The wedding party is split up.
Just a second. How could they ride together for an hour?
We were going to ride around for an hour and then be dropped off at the reception. We were going to enjoy ourselves and ride in the limousines. That was part of our planning.
Then you should have turned down his offer for the second car.
We had already paid for this. He already had
Listen
our
to
money.
me. You can, listen to me, sir. You can, if he does not provide you with the service, sue him for a refund.
Right.
But you can't say I'm going to accept the substitute service that you're offering me and then sue him.
It took until everybody got to the reception, the other limo, before we understood everything that had happened. When all of these things happened, we realized we're not satisfied. Running out of gas, going to the wedding party separately,
So now you're not satisfied, and you're making a big deal about it. Stupid. could have said, no, I don't want you to do that. I'll take the 10-passenger limousine, and the other people I will make my own arrangements for.
At that time, we were fine with that proposal. I mean, we figured that was the thing to do, him to make 2 trips.
So?
Okay, what happened was, when it was all said and done, we were thinking about it. The wedding party had to go separately, and they ran out of gas, and we feel that we paid for more than that.
Just a second. So at the time that he offered that to you, just listen to what you're saying. At the time that he offered that to you, you said, fine. That's what you just said to me. And wasn't until afterwards, after the wedding, that you decided you really weren't satisfied with the service.
That's not true. My wife was very upset.
Of course.
And I told her, since this is our wedding day, this is our reception, I said, let's deal with this afterwards.
Oh,
because
so
I wanted...
Oh, there you go. So you said, we'll deal with it afterwards. We will accept the service and deal with it afterwards.
Yes, that's what I said.
Your case is dismissed. Now let's get to your counterclaim. Your counterclaim is nonsense too, because your counterclaim says that this specialty car is more expensive than the limousine that they ordered, and since they used it, since they sued you, you want the difference. Not in this country, not in this world.
I was getting my extra time, too, because they accepted the service.
Just a second. You didn't make a contract with them for your extra time.
No.
Right? You just said, I'm going to do this for you and make 2 trips. You didn't say, I'm going to do this for you, make 2 trips, and charge you for the time. I don't need your help. And as for you, you can't take advantage of somebody's service and then later on change your mind. Or as you said, say to your wife, listen, it's our wedding day. Let's not aggravate ourselves today. Let's do whatever we have today to get this over with, and we'll deal with it later, which means we'll sue them later. You can't do that. Case is dismissed.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
We gave him a tip on the basis that he was going to be able to follow through with what he said he did, and that means not running out of gas, pushing a car, delaying the entire bridal party, and getting everybody upset.
Running out of gas is my responsibility, but it wasn't that big of a deal. The people who were in the 10-passenger, they went to the liquor store. They were having a good time. They had a great time.
31-year-old factory worker Paul Jones is suing his ex-fiancée, 30-year-old machine operator Tracy Womack, for the return of an engagement ring and a camcorder.
Order. All rise. Come to order. All rise. This is case number 187 on the calendar in the matter of Jones versus Womack. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Mr. Jones, according to your complaint, you and the defendant lived together for a brief period of time. How long?
It was probably 6 or 7 months.
And you asked her to marry you?
Yes.
You gave her a ring?
Yes.
According to you, you also purchased a camcorder while
Yes.
you were together. The marriage never took place because you were still married to somebody else.
Yes.
When the defendant found out about that, she asked you to leave.
Yes.
When you left, you took a whole bunch of property. What did you take with you when you left?
Well, I took all my stuff.
What stuff?
She had personal belongings that I brought with me: my bed, my table, my microwave, clothing, general things like that, pictures of my son and stuff like that. Since she kept the camcorder, and when I moved in with her, she gave away her bed, her microwave, and her table because mine were newer, mine were better. She decided to give those to some family members of hers, and
Because you didn't need 2 of each.
yes,
And she did that, I assume, Mr. Jones, because you anticipated that you were going to get married.
yes,
So she got rid of all of her old stuff, you brought in your stuff, which was new stuff, and then you left. She had to, I assume, replace all that stuff, right?
yes. But when she gave away her stuff, with her record, she's been married 4 times prior to my asking her to marry me. I told her that in case something happened, I told her that she had a building outside. I told her to put her stuff in her building or something to keep it and maybe not give it away. I didn't advise her to give it all away.
Like sort of insurance.
Well, I mean, in case something did happen, because...
Like insurance?
Yes, previously other stuff had happened. So, you know, I said in case something happens. And then, you know, she threatened anything that was left was going to be put out in the yard and burned.
She was pretty angry when she found out that you were still married.
Yes.
How does one make a mistake like that, Mr. Jones?
When we filed for divorce, I got the papers, the divorce papers, and signed them, had them notarized when I signed them, sent them back.
When was that?
That was middle part of 98, end part of 98.
So you got the papers from her attorney and sent them back?
And sent them back.
And?
And I never thought anything else about it. I never heard anything else. I assumed the divorce was finalized.
So did you ever call up and find out whether you were divorced?
No, I never checked on it.
Well, don't you think that, how many times have you been married?
Once.
You're not an unintelligent man, sir, so it would seem to me if you want to know whether you're divorced or not, you pick up the phone, you call the clerk's office of the jurisdiction where the divorce is pending, and you say, hello, do I have a judgment to divorce?
Well, that is true, but I just never thought anything else about it.
So how did you find out that you were still married?
Well, whenever I told my mom that we were engaged and everything, she told me, she said, first make sure that he's divorced, because she said, you can't trust my ex-wife.
And did you check?
She kept saying, Tracy kept saying she wanted to see the divorce papers, So I finally called my ex-wife and told her to send me the papers. Well, the papers she sent was the first copy that we got that was unsigned by either one of us. So I called her back and told her I needed them, and that's when she told me that she hadn't finished paying for the divorce, and we had decided, since I was giving her everything, that she would go ahead and file and pay. She would take care of all that.
So she didn't do it?
No.
And how much after that conversation did you tell Miss Womack that you weren't divorced?
It was probably, I'm guessing, maybe 3 or 4 weeks.
How come you didn't tell her for 3 or 4 weeks?
Because I was trying to figure out a way to tell her, because I knew that she would go off. I was trying to figure out what to do to try to save the relationship, because I knew, I mean, I loved her, or what I thought was love, you know, and I didn't want, you know.
So how did you finally figure out to tell her?
She was real persistent about wanting to see the papers.
Smart.
So I...
Because she's had experience.
Yeah, needless to say. I was making up copies to give to her.
What do you mean you were making up copies to give to her?
I was making up copies of divorce papers.
How were you doing that?
On my computer.
That was a lot of effort.
Well, you know...
so did you give her copies of the divorce papers?
No. No, because when I went to get the copies that I made to make copies of them, she got in my computer and found the originals.
So you didn't have a chance to give it to her, is what
No.
you're saying?
No.
So you did a little detective work.
Yes, I did.
So what you did was you were making up phony divorce papers to give to her, and then I assume you were going to go through a ceremony with her.
No, not until the divorce was final.
How was the divorce supposed to be final if your first wife was in no big hurry?
Well, we had planned to get married next year in Hawaii. So I was going to, after I took care of this with her and
Took care of what with her?
the divorce thing with Tracy, once I explained to her, once I got her to a point where I could explain to her that I wasn't divorced, I was going to
How are you going to
of it.
explain, Mr. Jones, how are you going to explain to Tracy that you really weren't divorced after you had given her copies of divorce papers that you fraudulently made up from the computer? Don't you see that you were digging the hole deeper?
Yes, ma'am, and I realized that I should have
And
dug
deeper.
up.
All right. This whole lawsuit is about a camcorder and engagement ring. Let's talk about the ring first. The ring is the easy part.
Mm-hmm.
You've been married 4 times?
Yes, I have.
Short marriages?
Yes, they were.
Made 4 mistakes?
Yes, I did.
You were just saved from a 5th.
Yes, I was.
Given back the ring. Now.
This ring means
Nothing.
everything.
Nothing.
But why should he get this ring when he gave this to me and I expected to marry this man, and he lied not only to me but to my children? And now to this ring I need to sell to pay back all the stuff that I had to buy when he left and took.
Mm-hmm. Give him the ring. Good. Now, let's get to the camcorder. How much was the camcorder, sir?
The camcorder was $355.43 plus bag and tapes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And tell me the circumstances around the camcorder.
I bought the camcorder because she has 2 children that are younger. I have a son that's 5. She had talked about wanting to get a camcorder to be able to film them and stuff like that. She liked tapes and pictures and stuff. So I went and I bought the camcorder. The camcorder, I told her whenever, I said, hey, I got a camcorder. I told her it was for us to film the kids growing up and, our relationship and our marriage, which I had planned.
Mm-hmm.
It was never given to her as a gift. The gifts that I did give her, I didn't ask for them back.
Mr. Jones, do you think that Ms. Womack is in a better position or a worse position as a result of being involved with you, sir, financially?
Financially?
She had to replace certain things in her house, right?
Yes, and when I moved in with her, when she asked me to move in with her, I gave away my couch and love seat because they were that she had a nicer one, same as with my stuff. She had a nicer one than I had, so I gave them away.
Yeah, but she was straight up with regard to the relationship with you, sir. She wasn't married to somebody else.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It was his fault that it never took place.
You should pay.
So, Your Honor, this is all about, she's a very vindictive person.
You deceived her. Doesn't that strike you as being wrong?
And later today,
what did you contribute to this relationship?
I contributed as much as I possibly could.
That's I've heard that before. I give you anything I had, I don't have anything.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Paul Jones says ex-fiancée Tracy Womack won't return an engagement ring or his camcorder. Tracy says Paul lied to her. She claims he's still married.
She could have followed through with her promise to marry you. You, on the other hand, unless you could do some magic with the computer, were not going to be able to marry her if you were already married to somebody else.
No, but at the time that I asked her to marry me, I didn't know, and it may have been
That's
stupidity.
your fault.
It may have been,
Well, so that's your stupidity, not hers.
but
A person assumes that when a man asks to marry them, they are free to marry. You didn't embark on an honest course of conduct, which would have said, Tracy, I don't understand what happened. I really thought I was divorced. I have some money. I'm going to hire a lawyer. I'm going to do it next week or this week. I'm going to do it tomorrow because she doesn't care whether we're married or not. She just doesn't want to pay for it. I'm going to pay for it, and I'm going to get it done. You weren't honest with her. Your relationship at that point was one of deception, right?
yes, it may have been.
Clearly. The deception's going to cost you the camcorder, sir, because I don't know whether it was a gift or not. She's got it. She keeps it. If you need to, you sell it. Okay? The ring, as far as I'm concerned, is a gift made in contemplation of marriage, whether it's your fault, her fault, or the moon's fault that you can't get married. You should have the ring back. As far as the camcorder, I'm not so sure that it wasn't given to her as a gift so that she could memorialize her kids and the times you had together.
You just gave him permission to lie to everybody and get this ring back.
Listen to me. A ring is a piece of metal unless there is some real sentimental value to it, which there shouldn't be considering the circumstances of your parting. You have no reason to keep it.
To sell. Now, that's what he's going to do, is he not? Or he's going to give it to his new girlfriend.
Who bought it?
Well, his dad bought it.
Whoever bought it, somebody bought it. You didn't buy it. It was given to you in contemplation of you getting married. Marriage never took place.
Well,
my judgment never took place. It was his fault that it never took place.
Yeah, he should pay.
See, Your Honor, this is all about, she's a very vindictive person.
She's not vindictive, sir. Being vindictive and feeling as if you've been taken for a ride are two different things. You deceived her. You're wrong. You're wrong to have deceived her to try to make up some stationery on your computer with a judicial seal to show her that you were divorced. Doesn't that strike you as being wrong?
Yes, it does.
All right. The wrong's going to cost you a camcorder. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I should have known when I got in the relationship with her that with her being bisexual that, you know, something was going to come up. I had a real big problem with that.
His mother told me to check the divorce, not him. So his own mother doesn't believe him and kicked him out of her home.
33-year-old electronics salesman David Bridges and his wife Tammy are suing the stepmother of their daughter's boyfriend, 48-year-old restaurant manager Jackie Kimbrell. The Bridges say Jackie burned their daughter's CDs. Jackie is countersuing for the return of luggage.
Order. All rise. This is case number 342 on the calendar in the matter of Bridges versus Kimbrell. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Folks, have seats, please.
You are Mrs. Bridges?
Yes, ma'am.
And who are you?
I'm Mr. Bridges, David.
Well, you weren't there during the course of this incident that brings us to court today.
No, ma'am.
Is that right? So why don't you have a seat? Tell me your first name.
Brittany.
Brittany, you have a boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
Your boyfriend is her stepson.
Yes, ma'am.
Is your boyfriend here today?
Yes, ma'am.
Boyfriend. According to your complaint, you were at the defendant's house. You were having an argument with your boyfriend. The argument got kind of loud. The defendant, his stepmother, came outside. There was some sort of an altercation, and at the end of this altercation, according to you, the defendant burned up all of your CDs.
Yes, ma'am.
You are suing for the value of those CDs and also some mental anguish. And she has a rather interesting defense to the CDs, although she acknowledges she burned them, correct?
That's right.
When did this incident occur?
July 3rd.
And you were at the defendant's home.
Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing there?
Me and my boyfriend went up there to go swimming
How long has he been your boyfriend?
for nearly 2 years.
So you know the defendant very well.
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume that you had always had a nice relationship with her.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happened on this particular day when you went over there to go swimming?
Well, me and him got into an argument, and she came out there and was asking, she was in our argument. And
what did she say?
She was just trying to, ask us what was going on, and we told her, and she was like, well, y'all don't need to be fighting and all this. Then she started getting ill with Rodney. So Rodney...
She started to get what?
Ill, and was just starting to holler at Rodney.
Where was this argument taking place, Brittany?
We were walking down from the pool house when me and him was arguing, going to the house, and then she came outside.
Were you yelling? Were you raising your voices?
No, ma'am.
What were you arguing about?
The tanning bed.
Tanning bed?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about that.
We were arguing who was going to get him first. It was stupid.
Okay. So she came out and she started hollering at the boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
Her stepson.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And then Rodney just told her that we wanted to leave. So he went to the house and got all his clothes and put them in his car, and her car was parked behind his car, which was in the garage. And it was blocked in, and he asked her, he said, will you move your car? And she said, no, y'all are not leaving. He said, yes, we can leave if we want to. And she said, no, I'd like to see y'all leave. So that time, Rodney just said, look, I'm going to call your mom and see if we can call the police to get my car out of the way. And so we walked over to the side of the house and called the police. And that time, she had walked over there and got in his car and got all of his clothes and my CDs. We didn't know what was going on. Then her granddaughter and grandson came over there and told us that she was burning all of our stuff.
What happened next?
We ran over there, and Rodney kicked over the 55-gallon drum to see if anything was saved, and everything was burned.
Was there a fire in the 55-gallon
Yes,
drum?
ma'am.
What was in the fire?
All his clothes and my CDs.
So what happened after you saw your stuff burning?
Well, she was yelling at me, trying to fight me.
What do you mean try to fight you?
She told me, when we went up to the fire, she was like, get off my property, and we were like, okay. And then she was chasing me out into the road, trying to fight me for I don't know what reason.
All right, Miss Kimbrough, let me hear your version of these events.
Okay, they were out in the yard fighting. First, my husband went out, and he couldn't stop them, so I went out, and they had went back up to the pool. And I asked them what happened, and Brittany said it was her fault. And I said, Rodney, no matter whose fault it is, you don't need to be talking to her like that, and you don't need to be cussing. Our neighbors...
Is that what he was doing? He was cursing?
Very badly. Both of them were cursing. And I told them not to do that because our neighbors had called and could hear them, and our 2 grandchildren was there and heard it. So they came running back down to the house, and Rodney went into the bathroom, got his clothes out of the dryer, and he said he was leaving. But now his car was in my carport because it wouldn't run. It wouldn't even crank. So I knew he couldn't go nowhere, but I did ask him to leave. And my daughter Summer had came up, and something had happened earlier that day that I don't really know, but Brittany and Rodney and Summer were arguing. Well, when she came up, they started again. And I was trying to stop them, and when Summer walked over, Rodney pushed her back, and then when he pushed Summer, I started over there, and he just, pushed me. And when Brittany was cussing us, Rodney was standing there with his hands out like this, letting her cuss. And I just said, would you please call your mother to come get you, Brittany? So Rodney looked at his daddy and said something really bad. And I don't know if, I should say that, but it was really said no effing body could whip him. And then he looked at me and he told me something really bad that it's hard to say, but he took off running when he said it. And I got mad when he said that because it hurt me because I'd really been good to Rodney.
How long have you been married?
We've been married 13 years, but now we've raised Rodney most of those years he's been with us. And I grabbed his clothes, what few he had gotten out of the dryer, and I took them up to the barn and I burned them. And the CDs that was in there, I didn't see those when I grabbed the clothes. They just got mixed up because they was in the front seat of the car. And when I threw them over, I saw the case. It was a very small little CD case. And they were not Brittany's CDs.
How do you know that?
Well, they were Rodney's, and they was, in his car.
How do you know that?
Well, they had his name on them.
She says that they were her CDs.
No,
But in a
ma'am.
case that had his name on it.
It said Rodney Loves Brittany on the case. It didn't have just his name on it. I've got his CD case here, and I've got the CDs that was burned, the cases for them, what I had. I
She
don't
had
have all
not
of them.
said anything about the CDs at all until later that night when her stepdad called me and asked me for $600 to pay for the CDs.
I've got the burnt CDs too.
No, I believe that they were her CDs.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This one is called Mo Thugs, DMX, Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood. Did you ever hear of Barry Manilow?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 16-year-old Brittany Manis says her boyfriend's stepmother, Jackie Kimbrell, burned her CDs.
What's important is, Miss Kimbrell, you're the mother. You acted out of anger when you burned the stuff. And certainly I'm not excusing young kids who were outside in front of your house embarrassing you in front of your neighbors, cursing. Otherwise, there would have been no reason for you nor your husband to become involved. According to Brittany, you had always had a pleasant relationship. So you think she was just having a bad day, or were you and Rodney outside?
We weren't cursing.
No?
No, ma'am.
Well, what do you think Mr. Kimbrell came outside for?
We weren't cursing. We might have been raising our voice, but we
Okay,
wasn't
so
loud.
now we're raising voices. So
We
first you
wasn't
told
loud.
me you weren't raising voices, now you're raising voices. Did Rodney say something to his dad that was nasty?
Well, he said it to her, to
He said
Jackie.
it to both of us. He said
He
it to
hugged his
Roger.
dad and said it to Jackie.
Were you outside when he said that?
Yes, ma'am.
There were neighbors who lived close by?
I don't know how close. I don't know if there's somebody that lives right next door, but I know somebody lives in the trailer down the road.
There was a neighbor sitting directly across the house from me. His trailer sits in front, and he was sitting in his yard.
There isn't a question in my mind, Miss Kimbrell, that these CDs belong to Brittany. How many CDs were in your case?
31.
31?
Yes, ma'am.
How large was this case?
It was about this big, but we had them back to back, like 2 or 3 CDs in one little packet.
How do you know there were 31 CDs in there?
Because I've got all the CD cases that I had in there, most of them.
What do you mean most of them?
That's just most of the CD cases that I have that I haven't lost. But I've written down all the names of the CDs.
Let me see them.
It was a very small CD case.
I think, Miss Kimbrell, you were probably
Here's
so
my
angry.
CD case, and here's the list.
You didn't much care what the CD case looked like. You just made a big grab
I was
for
very
every...
upset.
You just made a
Things
big
he said
grab
to me,
for
but it
everything.
wasn't
Here's the
small
list
case.
of the CDs.
These are the cases that are now empty. Is that
Yes,
right?
ma'am.
So we have 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 empty cases. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. That's the ones that I could find.
Now, those are the only ones you're going to get. Now, you have a bill for these? How much were they?
We found the approximate amount for the 31 that was in there.
Forget 31. You have proof of these, 14. Let me see what kids listen to. 18 rock hard hits, 504 boys, B-O-Y-Z.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Booty Mix 4.
They've never been allowed to listen to him at my house.
This one is called Mo Thugs.
That has
Some
2
guys
CDs.
look like I sentenced a couple of years ago. Dr. Dre.
Yeah, that's right.
Is he a physician?
Not really.
Master P. How? Here are 4 normal-looking girls.
Destiny's Child.
Very nice-looking girls. Normal. DMX. Flesh of my flesh, blood of my blood. What happened to Benny Goodman?
He was replaced by Bootleg Booty.
Bootleg Booty. Oh, Master P again. Who's the big fan of Master P?
Me.
You are.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever hear of Barry Manilow?
No, ma'am.
Never heard of Barry Manilow?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Now, if you're asking me about the worth of these albums, since you don't have receipts for them, right?
We don't usually keep our receipts for CDs.
How much do they cost?
On the average, about $15 a CD.
$210, 14 times 15, that's the average. What are you doing sitting over there? Who did you come to court with today?
Brittany.
Your Honor, I tell you the reason Rodney's here today is because he was threatened by David and Tammy to come to court, or at the time this happened, Brittany was 15 and Rodney was 19, and if Rodney will admit to telling the truth, this is what was said. They said that they was going to get him for a statutory rape if he didn't come to court and be a witness for Brittany, and said they'd never let him see Brittany again.
Your Honor, that is not true.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 16-year-old Brittany Manis says her boyfriend's stepmother, Jackie Kimbrell, burned her CDs.
Okay. On the CDs, you're going to get $210 to get your mental anguish.
My bathing suit.
What?
My bathing suit top and my picture, she still hasn't returned.
Do you have any of that stuff?
I have her bathing suit top, but she came in the house and got everything else.
No, ma'am, I did not go in their house.
Whatever, I don't have anything else in the complaint about anything else. You have a bathing suit top? Give her a bathing suit top. Okay. As far as your lawsuit, which seeks damages for mental anguish of $1,500 because you saw your CDs burn, you better go and wash out your mouth, and when you learn not to cuss at adults, then we'll talk about mental anguish. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
They had a pretty good argument, and I went out to break it up, and like I said, they just kind of turned on us.
I don't care what they said to them or cussed or whatever. They're adults and they're children.
I just hope everybody can get along now.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Tarter versus Hughes. Step forward, please.
Bus driver Catherine Tarter is suing her estranged son-in-law, 25-year-old salesman Donald Hughes, for the cost of a trailer. Donald says Catherine is angry about his pending divorce from her daughter.
Ms. Tarter, the defendant is your soon-to-be ex-son-in-law. Yes. According to your complaint, he owes you some money for a trailer. Is that right?
Yes.
The defendant says he's paid you a substantial amount of money for the trailer, doesn't owe you any more. You have the motorhome that went with the trailer. He doesn't have it in his possession. It's not on his property. I assume this is your daughter?
Yes.
How long have you been married?
4 years, Your Honor.
You have children?
Yes, I do.
How many children?
I have a 1.5-year-old daughter, and then I had 2 sons that came with the marriage that are still dear to me.
And who does that child live with?
I have sole custody.
Is that after a hearing, after a trial?
Yes.
Does their mother have visitation with the children?
No, she does. She has 2 hours supervised visits a week.
Does she exercise the visitation?
Sometimes.
Prior to the divorce, did you have a reasonable relationship with Mr. and Mrs. Tarter?
Yes, I did.
Is that right?
Yes.
How many children do you have?
I have 2 girls.
How many grandchildren do you have?
3.
How much money was this trailer?
It was $4,000.
Just for the trailer?
Just for the trailer, and the motorhome was $4,000, so they agreed upon $8,000.
And how much do you say it was, sir?
It was $4,000 altogether for both of them.
Is there a writing with regard to that?
We had a verbal agreement.
Is there a writing with regard to that, is my question.
No.
How much have you paid them for the trailer?
I paid them $1,950 for the trailer and the motorhome together.
But you only have
I only have the trailer.
The trailer. Did Mr. Hughes pay you $1,950?
No, ma'am.
How much did he pay you?
The motorhome broke down.
I'm not talking about the motorhome.
Okay, well,
He doesn't have the motorhome.
He paid us, I know, they returned it, so therefore all the payments that were paid individually towards the motorhome and the trailer were forfeited. And they were always...
Forfeited by whom?
By us. It was written down where when he paid us money, that $75 would go towards the motorhome and $75 would go towards the trailer. When one was given back in case they decided they couldn't afford it, or that it broke down, which the motorhome did, and they couldn't afford to fix it, they gave it back to us. So therefore, the motorhome payments, which were $425, was forfeited, and then $425 was credited towards the utility trailer.
All I'm asking you is that in writing someplace?
I typed up a legal contract because
Did he
at first
sign it?
He refused to sign it.
So the answer is you do not. Shh. You do not have that in writing. Is that correct?
My daughter signed it, and
I don't
he
care
did
what your
not.
daughter signed, madam. I mean, I happen to think that you're missing a few screws, and I'm going to tell you why. You have a year-and-a-half-old granddaughter. Your soon-to-be ex-son-in-law has sole custody, which suggests to me that if you want to maintain a relationship, and it seems to me you enjoyed a reasonable relationship with him before, if you want to enjoy a reasonable relationship with your granddaughter, you should keep him on your good side and not sue him, because it would appear to me that your daughter had to be a pretty deficient person in order to end up at the end of a custody dispute with 2 hours a week supervised visitation. Do we understand each other?
Yes, ma'am.
Why would a normal person who has 3 grandchildren risk the wrath of their custodial parent over nonsense? Over nonsense. He's paid you money. And if he, how much child support is your daughter paying for her daughter?
She's not, and they're not divorced yet.
I don't care whether they're divorced or not. If she were the custodial parent and taking care of the child, and he came to me and said, in the course of a legal dispute, and I said to him, how much money are you paying for child support? And he said, well, we're not divorced yet, so I'm not paying for anything. I would wipe up the floor with him. I asked you a simple question. The simple question was, how much money was paid to you by him for either the trailer and or the motorhome?
$425 for the trailer and $425 for the motorhome.
Are you passive-aggressive? How much money was paid in total for both things? Just give me, don't give me $425 for each. How much money do you say was paid in total?
$850.
Okay. And you say $1950.
Yes, I do.
Can you prove that to me?
No, I can't. I have no receipts due to my house being taken from my wife, and then when I got my house back, I had no paperwork, no receipts, no pink slips.
They say $850. What makes you think it was $1950?
Because I paid on time, sometimes a couple days late, but every month was paid since October of 2002 until December of 2003.
So far, is that right?
No, Your Honor. I have a payment schedule here
Let me
showing. They were to pay $26 for insurance.
I'm not talking about insurance. I'm talking about how much money he actually paid to you. Okay. $1,450 is, by your calculations, what he paid to you. Not $850, $1,450, based upon this.
Your Honor, those payments were divided up between the motorhome and the trailer equally.
I just told you, he doesn't have the motorhome. You do.
No, we sold it since then.
Well, that's not my problem. That's not his problem.
Well, I asked him to return the motorhome when he refused the one payment and took it back.
Miss Tarter, you're not following me. If you think they owe you anything for the motorhome, get it from your daughter. Do I make myself clear? You are a very foolish lady. A very foolish lady. If I were in your position, I would not alienate the father, the custodial parent of my granddaughter. I would not alienate him. And for a very stupid reason, money. You did.
This has been going on for over a year.
No, that's not true. Because December of 2003, which is not over a year, he made a payment to you of $500. That's according to your own record.
But we sold it to him on March 03, is when the trailer and the motorhome was sold to them.
Did you hear what I said to you? It's not been going on for over a year. He made a payment to you of $500 in December of 2003.
Yes, he caught it.
When was the last time your daughter sent any money for the support of his child?
March. That's not an issue. They're not divorced
It's
yet.
an issue, madam, if you're using your brains. March of 2003. Was she employed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Where was she employed?
At Child Time.
Until when?
October of 2003.
And what did she do with her money?
I thought she was paying bills, but she wasn't. She was using it on drugs.
Was she placed in a rehab?
I placed her in a rehab in January.
Did she stay?
She stayed for 60 days, Your Honor. And then she was supposed to go to a halfway house, and she ended up getting kicked out of there for doing it again, drinking.
Where are her other 2 children?
One lives with his father, and the other one lived with the grandparents.
Ms. Tarter, I find that the defendant has paid you $1,450 for a trailer. I find that your agreement was $4,000 for the trailer and the motorhome, not $8,000. Whatever deficiency there is, I suggest you get it from your daughter. Your case is dismissed. That's all.
Step out.
I don't want my daughter to not see her mom or her grandparents or anything, but I see where the daughter gets it from.
He's refused me custody of my daughter. He's refused me parental rights to my daughter, visitation to my daughter, and everything else. I've done everything that the courts have asked me to do.
She kidnapped my daughter from when we were getting Christmas pictures. She ran me over with a car.
I was having meth at the time.
Her drug use, it just kind of tore the whole family apart.
I told him to bring the trailer back or I would report it stolen. He says, well, you might as well report it stolen and you can kiss your granddaughter goodbye because you're never going to see her again.
Hopefully it'll work out. I really do, because it's not about me, her, or the grandparents. It's actually about the children.
Angela Clark is suing her stepfather, security guard Michael Clark, for an unpaid loan. Angela says Michael needed help to get back on his feet after he was released from prison.
This is case number 53 on the calendar in the matter of Clark versus Clark. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Clark, this is your father, is that right?
Correct.
And your mother is standing to your side?
Correct.
You recently lost your sight as a result of an illness?
Viral encephalitis. I was bit by an insect.
You have no vision at all?
Light and dark sensation only.
And when did that happen?
June of last year.
Is there any treatment for it?
No, ma'am. It's permanent.
What kind of work did you do before?
I was an oncology and hospice research nurse.
Your lawsuit says that in 2001, your father was released from a prison term and needed to borrow some money, and you loaned him $1,000. He paid you back, according to your complaint, $300. Now that you are unemployed and money is really an important issue for you, you want the money back, the rest of the money that he promised to repay, $700. And your father says that he paid you back every penny of the money he borrowed. It was $900, but he paid you back every penny. Is that right?
Correct.
When were you released from prison, Mr. Clark?
January 2000.
And how long had you been incarcerated?
5 years.
Tell me about the loan that your daughter made to you. When was it?
It was after I got out of prison in 2000. I did 6 months in a recovery system. After that, I had purchased a car, and the transmission went out, and I borrowed $1,000 from her, which she did not send me $1,000. She sent me $900 because it cost her $75 to send it to me. So
well, that cost her $75 to send it to, so that's almost $1,000. But for the fact that she sent you the money,
at the present,
she wouldn't have had the expense.
Right. At that time, I was going through separation with my ex-wife, which is here as her witness. She was having me put in jail at the same time, which my parole officer at the same time was understanding.
For what?
Domestic violence.
Okay.
I went to court for it, and it was...
Okay. You started to pay her back when, sir?
After I moved to Columbus.
And when was that?
18 months later.
When did you send him this money?
February of 2001.
And how did you send it? By wire?
Western Union, and that's why I sent him $925, because they charged me $75 to send it. He agreed to that prior to me sending it to him.
When did your father make his first payment?
Well, he wrote me a check, but it bounced.
When was that? Do you remember?
February of 2002. So then he was supposed to pay me when he got his taxes back, but they kept his taxes because he defaulted on a student loan. So he still didn't pay me. I, by then, was financially having some difficulties of my own, and I asked him, I said, can you, since you can't pay me back, like you said, can we make arrangements for $100 a month? So at least I would be able to do what I had to do, and he agreed to that.
And when was the first payment?
He started working at the strip club about 2 months after that, and I got my first payment. He paid me in all quarters. And then...
that would be around August of 2002?
Yes, ma'am. And then the next time he paid me was a month later. He paid me another $100, and that was like in quarters and ones. And then the last payment...
Why were you giving her money in quarters?
Mainly, most of that was tips. Tips made. I was paying her 3 times a week.
That's untrue.
It was in tips.
That was
well, why, Mr. Clark, were you annoyed that your daughter... Listen to me carefully, sir. Were you annoyed that your daughter was asking you for this money back?
No, ma'am.
Well, then, you're a grown man. You can take quarters and you go to the bank and you turn in the quarters and you get dollar bills or $10 bills or $5 bills to repay your debt. You don't act like a baby and give your daughter quarters, $100 or $200 in quarters. That's ridiculous.
He could have carried it. Sorry, Your Honor.
My tips are ranging from $1 bills to $10 bills to $20 bills. I make at least $500 a night in tips. I give her $100 a night 3 times a week in tips. Sometimes it is all ones.
Don't speak yet.
Yes, ma'am.
Sometimes it is all ones.
Oh.
But never no quarters. And there no one uses change in the strip club.
Okay. When did you ask your father again for the balance of what he owed you?
After I got hospitalized in June, I had to go to the Cleveland Clinic for a second opinion on my sight. And I asked my father, well, actually, my mother was going to take me. We went by ambulance, and my father said he would drive up with us and make sure I got back home. But he left me stranded there. I was upset when I got back that he abandoned me when I was in the hospital. So I went to see him in October, and that's when he told me that he had no intention of paying me, that everybody wants something from him, and he can't get what he ain't got.
Well, tell me about that conversation, Miss Clark. You said,
No, well, first I asked him why he left me stranded because he wouldn't return any of my calls. So finally,
and what did he say to you?
He didn't answer it. He started saying, well, the reason I had to leave you up there is because if you needed blood, I couldn't give you blood.
Blood pressure. Let her answer.
And,
sorry. Okay, let her answer. She's doing just fine.
He said that he couldn't give me blood if I needed blood because he's my stepfather, not my regular father. And I was like, so you left me stranded for blood I never even needed? And then I kept trying to call him on the phone to find out why he left me, but he would never call me back.
So
I finally, when I found him, I asked him, I said, you know, I really need this money. I got a mortgage and a car note. And
what did he say to you?
His exact words were, everybody wants something I can't give them. You can't get what I ain't got, and I ain't giving you nothing. And at that time, I started getting emotional, and my grandmother walked in, and I left.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Angela Clark says her stepfather, Michael Clark, owes for an unpaid loan to get back on his feet. Michael says he was in prison for over 15 years.
Now, sir, I'd like you to tell me when you claim you made payments to, this is your stepdaughter?
Mm-hmm.
To your stepdaughter.
When I started making payments to her, I'd give her $100 a week, sometimes twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week.
Do you remember when that was, sir?
Every week. After the date of I started work in 2001. It was like 18 months after that, 2001.
After 18 months, you paid her, and it took you just a couple of weeks to pay her off?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any biological children, sir?
2. I have.
How old are they?
Actually, I have more than that. By my ex-wife, there's my set of twins.
How old are all your children, sir?
They range from 38 to 10 years old.
So how come you asked your stepdaughter for money?
She was the closest one to me.
Yep.
That is true. Just a second. So, of your biological children, nobody would give you money, but you asked your listen to me, you asked your stepdaughter for money, and she gave it to you, right?
Yes.
Now, if that's true, because you say she was the closest to you, right?
Yes.
Let's say she needs $700 now. Let's say, and I'm not saying that I believe you, let's say you paid her. Why wouldn't you just give her $700?
I pay child support. I pay rent. I have to live.
With his mother.
Attorney fees that I have to pay, that I'm still paying. If she really needed the money, I would do whatever it takes to get the money and give it to her.
Well, evidently, sir, she really needs the money. She wouldn't bring you to court, sir, unless she needed money.
Having the children, biological children that I do have, I don't know where they live. I did 15 years in prison. I don't know where they live.
Well,
Angel
evidently they weren't close enough for you to find out where you were.
Angel is the only one that I knew at the time where she was.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry, but he took his daughter to the strip club where he lives. She lives 4 blocks from us. He helped her move into her apartment. He knows where all his children are, every one of us. And I didn't know he was my stepfather until he abandoned me in the hospital, and I still gave him the money.
I have to make a judgment
Yes,
whether
ma'am.
I believe that somebody who opened their heart and gave to a parent / step-parent money when they needed it and waited years in order to get paid back would make up a story about still being owed the balance of a loan, or whether there is a ring of truth to her statement that in response to her saying, I need my money now, you said to her, everybody's looking for a piece of me. They can't get what I don't have. Just like what you said, Mr. Clark. You got children, you got biological children, you got child support, you got lawyers, you got rent, you got everything else to pay. So that sounds like words that probably came out of your mouth. That everybody's looking for a piece of me, and you're going to get disability, and you're going to get workman's comp, or you're going to get whatever else you're going to get, and you're going to be just fine. Stop looking at me. I'm just an old man who's trying to make ends meet. Well, you make ends meet after you pay her back the $700 that you owe her. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $700. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm grateful that I got my $700, but what he did today is going to cost him a lot more than that because now he has no relationship with any of his children.
She brought my ex-wife in here and just divorced her in December, so she just want to antagonize me.
Well, not only did he leave me stranded and not pay me, but since I've been ill and lost my vision, I haven't heard from him, not once in the last 9 months since it happened to me.
I love my daughter, but when she first told me, when I first found out she was in the hospital, I was concerned about the blood thing. I panicked about it. I got stressed about it.
He didn't want a relationship with me when he owed me money. I'm sure he doesn't want one now that he actually has to pay me the money.
Pauline's mad at me, Dottie's mad at me, Angel's mad at me, half my kids are mad at me because of this family here. So I'm not worried about it anymore. I got a life to live and I'm gonna live it.
26-year-old master control operator Josh Ashcroft is suing his ex-fiancée, property manager Julie Skiles, for unpaid rent and bills. Julie is countersuing, claiming Josh stole her dog and rammed her Toyota MR2.
That's case number 220 on the calendar, the matter of Ashcroft versus Skiles. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
Mr. Ashcroft, you and the defendant were engaged and living together. She moved out with 3 months left to go on a lease that I assume the two of you had signed together.
That is correct.
You want her to pay those 3 months' rent. The defendant says that your behavior forced her out of the apartment, and she is counterclaiming for damage that she says that you did to her truck, a whole bunch of money because she says you've been harassing her, and something about a dog. So let's start with when you moved in together and when you signed the lease.
Okay, like you said, we were engaged. We decided to both move in on a house.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a quick learn. I asked a question. When did you sign the lease? That requires a date,
yes,
not a
ma'am.
story.
We signed it in September of 2003, September 28th.
And when did you move in?
We moved in October 1st, I believe. Just a few
You have
days.
a copy of the lease?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
I'd like to see it, please. And what was your agreement with regard to paying for the expenses on this apartment?
We had came to a mutual agreement that we would both pay half.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How many people were supposed to live there?
Two, me and Julie were the only ones that were living in the house at the time we first
And your dog?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Monthly rent was $900.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you moved out when?
About June 15th.
Is that about right?
It sounds about right. I have the 25th. Wasn't very clear because she did not tell me when she was moving out. She had no intention. I did not have any information of her intention of moving out.
Sir. When did you wake up and find she wasn't there? What day?
Actually, it was I believe it was the 25th on a Friday when I came home for work and discovered that everything out of the house was gone.
Are you telling me that between the 15th and the 25th she was living there?
Is
not an answer.
No, ma'am. I don't believe she was. She would come home when I was at work and get her things and stuff.
I want to know when she moved out. The 15th or the 25th. Physically, her body, her person, not her property, her person. When did she move out?
I would say the 25th, Your Honor.
Who are you?
I'm his brother.
You have a name?
Jason Ashcroft, ma'am.
When did you move into the apartment?
I moved in around March, end of March, April.
So you were living in the apartment when they were living there. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How much rent were you paying?
I was paying $350 a month.
You still there?
Yes, ma'am.
Then what are we doing here? See, it's nice to have a nice, honest brother, right?
Yes, ma'am.
She moved out June 15th. She moved out June 25th. What difference does it make? Your brother's living there. He's taking over the other part of the rent. So why are you suing her?
Well, because of the fact that there was no 30-day notice given. She was unemployed for 9 months, which meant that I needed to move in someone to help cover her part of the rent.
He moved in before, according to your brother. Is your brother lying? Your brother moved in, he says, in March. She moved out in June. March, April, May, June. That is right, isn't it?
I just needed someone to help cover the rent. I didn't want to be in default on my lease, so I had to move my brother in and help.
Good. And you did that. That's a good thing. So you're not out any money. So I don't know why you're bothering me, Mr. Ashcroft. You want to get to your counterclaim?
Yes, ma'am. Actually,
you gave the right answer, truthful answer. See how fast we resolve this?
Yes,
Plus, your
ma'am.
brother probably will want to take you outside and kill you. That's not my problem. Let's deal with your counterclaim.
Okay.
Let's deal with your counterclaim, unless you want to say, listen, I don't want to get involved with this lady. I don't want to deal with her.
Oh, no.
Okay.
On June 15th, the day I moved out, he came home and rammed my car out the driveway with his truck.
Why did he do that?
Why did he do that?
Yeah.
You'll have to ask him.
No.
He wanted me to move my car, and I apparently didn't
Listen
do it
to
fast
me.
enough.
Listen to me. I want you to understand something. I'm not your friend. You have a whole host of friends. Are you related to her?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you her father?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Your father is your friend. You have friends. I'm not your friend. So when I say to you, why did he ram your car with his truck, there was a reason. The reason was he wanted you to move your car, and you weren't moving it fast enough.
Correct.
And you were having an argument with him.
Correct.
All right, there you go. You see? You've been around the block a few times, and you understand things, so that he didn't just wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to ram her car with
No.
my truck.
We were arguing. He had asked me at that time, told me that I needed to leave to move out of the house. Then he went to leave, and my car was parked behind him.
How many times did he ask you to move your car?
One time, and then he went to his truck. I was getting my keys, heard his truck back out into my car, and he moved it himself.
Now, what happened with her car, sir?
I asked her repeatedly to move her car.
And what did she say to you?
She didn't say anything. There was no communication there whatsoever.
So she just ignored you?
Yes, ma'am. She ignored
And
me.
just take your hand out of your pocket?
Yes, ma'am.
So, you asked her, you said, move your car, things are getting too hot.
Yes, ma'am.
And she was giving you the old passive-aggressive. She wasn't moving, she wasn't getting the keys, she wasn't getting this. So you got into your car, and what did you do? Your truck.
She was parked a few feet behind my truck. As I was trying to get out, I tried to maneuver my truck to get out, and I accidentally hit her car.
Okay, so you understand that you have to fix that.
Yes, ma'am.
You have an estimate?
Yes.
What's the estimate?
I have two, both for $700, 1702, 1703.
Okay, $700. When you have a bad temper, that's what happens. What else?
Also, I would like to add his harassment. Also on that day when he came home, he kicked in the bathroom door, pushed me against the wall, told me to leave. He calls my work continuously harassing me.
What is he asking you for at work?
For money and
for money. Well, he's not going to
And stolen property, Your Honor.
For a frying pan.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
A frying pan and a
Take your hands out of your pockets. This claim that you filed here has nothing to do with property. It had to do with rent. Now you're not going to call her anymore for money.
Excuse me, ma'am?
You're not going to call her anymore for money. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
You've litigated it, and you lost. We're just dealing now with her counterclaim. So don't bother her anymore. And your brother is going to tell you that he thinks that's a real good idea, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Ashcroft says ex-fiancée Julie Skiles broke their apartment lease. Julie says Josh's behavior forced her out of the home.
Now, he's not going to harass you anymore. Now, you want to tell me this story about the dog that you didn't get. What kind of a dog is it?
It's a boxer. And when we first split up, I was going to get the dog. He was going to give it to me. But then after the arguing and all that, he decided that he was going to keep the dog. I purchased the dog. He can keep it. That's fine. But I would like my money or the dog.
Do you have the receipt for that?
Don't. Take your hands out of your pocket. How long have you had the dog?
July of 2003, a little over a year.
And where are you living now?
I live in an apartment now.
And where do you live?
I live in the same residence, a three-bedroom house.
And the dog has a yard?
Yes, ma'am.
So you would say that the dog is better off with him?
Yes, ma'am.
That's why you left the dog?
So, correct.
What do you want?
I want him to pay me the cash I paid for the dog.
You can't get that.
Okay. And I can't get the dog either.
Of course.
No, the dog is happy where the dog is.
It's in the dog's well-being, I agree.
Take your hand out of your pockets and don't speak until you're spoken to, Mr. Ashcroft. So far, you don't get any money for him harassing you. He's not going to bother you anymore. You made him pretty mad if he hit your car with his truck. I don't know what the argument was about, nor do I care, quite frankly. I got enough to worry about my own arguments. He owes you $700 for the damage he did to your truck, because he did that because he was angry. And when you have a bad temper, you have to pay for that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So your counterclaim in the amount of $4,150 for harassment, the dog, and the kitchen sink is resolved this way. He pays you $700 to get your car fixed. And you, instead of having this lovely damsel as a roommate, have your brother. Good luck to you both.
Yes, ma'am.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was contractually obligated to pay the rent, the 12-month lease agreement that we both signed.
I don't owe him for rent. His brother is paying the rent.
The judge made a correct decision in leaving the dog where he belongs, and that's in the backyard of the house, not cramped up in some one-bedroom apartment.
I do think it's better for the dog.
I'm just glad it's all over with.
No more relationships for me.
And now the next case.
All parties are... Yes, case number 242. On the calendar in the matter of Hale, Stevens versus Gutierrez. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Mr. Stevens, Ms. Gutierrez and you used to be an item. You were boyfriend and girlfriend for a while. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you are currently attached to Miss Hale.
I'm currently seeing Miss Hale. That is correct.
According to the complaint that I have, the two of you say that Ms. Gutierrez did not accept the breakup well, and she has embarked upon a course of conduct that is harassment. She's vandalized your property. She's repeatedly written notes, spray painted your car, spray painted your house, and you want her to stop this harassment. You have a series of police reports, 7 or 8 of them, over a period of several months. You want $4,000 in damages. Ms. Gutierrez says there is no way that she's responsible for any of the damage that you claim. As a matter of fact, she can prove that to me because she was hospitalized and she had just undergone some major surgery at a time when you claim she was running around spray painting your house. And she is counterclaiming because she says because of your complaints about her to the police, she lost her job. How long were you and Ms. Gutierrez together?
Approximately 26 months.
Did you live together?
No, ma'am.
And when did you stop seeing each other?
We formally broke it off December of 2003. While she was in hospital in January and February, I visited her. It was a life-threatening surgery. During that time, I was very explicit that I didn't want to maintain the relationship as a boyfriend-girlfriend.
You mean right after her surgery?
Correct.
That was in 04, January and February of 04.
Yes.
Okay.
The last time I actually spoke to her about the relationship was probably the earliest part of June.
Well, between January and February and the early part of June, were you together? Did you see each other?
We went on a camping trip in May as friends.
How do you go on a camping trip
Well,
with
we were
somebody?
going to try the experience.
Listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you go with somebody on a camping trip in May that you told you don't want a relationship with several months before, and then tell me you went as friends?
The reason was I don't believe that that's usually a healthy thing, but I thought that she would be mature about it.
Being mature about what?
To be able to be a friend after you've been in a deep relationship with someone, and to handle it as friends.
So you decided to handle it as friends by going away on a camping trip together. Now, let me ask you about this camping trip. How many people went on the camping trip?
It was just the two of us.
And did you have one tent or two?
We had one tent.
And did you share that tent, or did you sleep on the sofa?
No, we shared the tent.
Were you intimate during the course of this camping trip?
No, ma'am. We were not.
Is that true?
That's correct. It's kind of hard to do anything in a tent.
Where there's a will, there's a way. So what happened during this trip in May?
Well, we talked about a lot of things. I told her she still had feelings for me and voiced that to me, and I told her that I didn't want to continue, that I wanted to start seeing other people, and I encouraged her to do the same.
How long was this camping trip?
It was just a weekend.
When did you have this conversation with her, on Friday or Sunday?
In regard to?
Not wanting to have a relationship with her anymore.
Well, it had been sort of ongoing. I can't recall it like a specific time.
Your Honor, we never talked about it. We went out and had a good time. The following weekend was Memorial Weekend. I spent the entire holiday weekend with them.
That sound right, sir?
I only recall the camping trip.
Well, let's try to recall the following weekend. She said she spent the entire weekend with you.
I know that
She's going to be able to prove everything that she says. I want you to trust me, so I want you to think hard. We're not talking about so long ago, sir. You went camping. She says the following weekend was Memorial Weekend, and you spent the entire weekend with him. Is that right? Where?
At his home.
At his home?
Yes.
Not in your home?
Friday through Monday.
You didn't have a tent there where it was difficult?
We slept in the same bed, Your Honor.
Think hard.
I am, Your Honor, and I do not recall that. I'm being completely brutally honest with you, Your Honor.
Well, if you don't recall it, she does.
I do, Your Honor.
Okay. So what happened at the end of that Memorial Day weekend, Ms. Gutierrez?
We just had a good weekend. We made a nice steak dinner that night. Always ate underneath his hut. He's got a beautiful yard.
Well, when did he tell you that it was over?
We never talked about it.
How did you find out it was over?
On June 2nd, he was supposed to go with me to a Japanese dinner with a friend of mine, and he backed out. After dinner, I went to the club looking for him.
What club?
It's the Texas Tux.
Is that where he works?
That's where he picks up his women.
Did you find them?
No, ma'am.
When did you speak to him, if at all, for him to tell you that it was over?
A week and a half after he met Annette on June 5th. He was seeing her, but I didn't know anything about it until a week and a half later.
Miss Hale, when did you meet Mr. Stevens?
June 12th.
6/12.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you meet him?
I met him at the Tux with some friends.
At the Texas Tux?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were immediately attracted to him?
We got along well. Great conversation. Over the next few weeks, we would meet for a drink or dinner or, and that was it.
Did he tell you that he had been in a long-term relationship?
Sure did.
What did he tell you about it?
He had been broke up with her since December 14th.
Okay, that's what he told you? Mm-hmm. That he had been out of the relationship for at least 6 months?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, you now know that that's not true.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know that before today?
No, ma'am.
We're getting on with this because I want you to hear this, Miss Hale. Before you put all your eggs in his basket, I want you to understand what you're dealing with.
Okay.
Bad enough that one lady got snookered. We don't want that to happen twice.
Mm-hmm. And you will.
Shh.
Sorry.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. John Stevens and his girlfriend Annette Hale claim John's ex-girlfriend Janie Gutierrez has been spray painting obscenities on Annette's car.
Now, Mr. Stevens, Miss Hale tells me that you told her that you were in a long-term relationship which terminated in December.
That's when it formally terminated. That's when we had
That's not what you told me 2 minutes ago, sir.
No, but I'm just saying, what happened, that was the formal end of the romantic relationship. I did have a continued relationship, but it was not a romantic one with Miss Gutierrez.
Well, maybe you weren't romantic, sir. Did you tell Miss Hale that you had been on a camping trip with her?
I told Miss Hale about a lot of...
Did you tell her you had been on a camping trip with her 2 weeks before?
I don't recall if I told her about the camping
Well,
trip.
let's see. Did he tell you about the camping trip?
Yes, ma'am, but I was not aware they were alone. I was aware that there were a lot of people.
Oh, well, tell me about what he told you about the camping trip.
I thought they had gone with friends on a camping trip, and that it was strictly friendly, and that was it. And she couldn't accept that, and so he told her they couldn't be friends. That's what I was told. Yes.
There isn't a question in my mind, Miss Hale, that on Memorial Day weekend, they spent the weekend together. Because she remembers it down to what they had for dinner, and he just doesn't remember. Exactly. Just doesn't remember that. Could have happened, but he doesn't remember it.
Right.
Okay. Now, Miss Hale, I'd like you to tell me what kind of vandalism you suffered and when.
Okay. The first one started on June 25th. I have police report.
Can I see it, please?
Pictures.
Was there a word written here? I can't tell what it says.
It starts, but it just never gets to that last letter.
Okay. Well, this happened June 25th. What proof do you have that Ms. Gutierrez caused this damage to your car?
Well, I have 2 other police reports. The painting happened 2 other times to my car. I have pictures of it also. And the fact that on July 31st, we were trying to wait up and watch for her since it was becoming every week. And at 4 o'clock in the morning, the dog started going crazy, and she was out in the driveway with a can of spray paint.
But, Your Honor, she neglected to tell you that I got a prank joke from the police officer at 3:30 in the morning. They said that they had a witness for me spray painting the garage in her car, and they told me if I didn't come to the scene and bring my spray paint to the scene, if I had any spray paint, to bring it, otherwise they would arrest me. He made the prank call. So I came up there with the can of spray paint that was never used at 4 a.m. in the morning.
Did you call her?
No, ma'am.
That doesn't sound right to me, Ms. Gutierrez.
It is, Judge Judy. They woke me up at 3:30 in the morning.
Where did you get a can of spray paint?
I bought 3 cans 6 years ago. It took 2 cans to spray one of my piece of furniture.
What color?
It was a burgundy.
Ms. Gutierrez.
But the 3rd paint can I never used. I used both of them on the piece of furniture 6 years ago.
What color was the...
The 3rd time was burgundy.
Can I see it?
And the same night, 25 miles away, she painted his garage burgundy. And we have pictures.
Oh, yeah. Some pictures of my garage.
The gold paint was the 2nd time. That was the 3rd with the burgundy on his garage.
What date was this?
That one was July the 16th with the burgundy paint.
Now, Ms. Gutierrez, according to your answer, you say that it was impossible for you to have done this on the 16th of July because you had either just had surgery or you were recuperating from major surgery. What kind of surgery?
I broke my neck in January. I was paralyzed.
Until when?
I just got the machine off the back of my neck last week, and also my PICC line that I've had since January.
Well, that didn't prevent you from getting around in July. You were not bedridden in July.
I was on a machine, and I had home care come 3 times a week.
That doesn't make any sense.
I was restricted to
You're not answering my
home.
question. Were you mobile during the month of July?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course, because at some point in July, you went over to the house at 4 o'clock in the morning, right?
When I got the phone call.
When you got the phone call, you were able to get up out of your house and go over to his house with a can of spray paint. So you were, in fact, mobile. So there was nothing physiologically wrong with you that precluded you from getting into a car and traveling, unless somebody drove you there. Did somebody drive you there?
No, ma'am.
You drove yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Ms. Gutierrez, I would have been very angry with him, too.
But not enough for me to spray paint, Your Honor. I'm not violent.
That's not being violent. Not violent. It's being vindictive. It's a criminal act. It's not per se a violent act. But I don't see why you would want to spray paint her car. She got snookered in by this guy.
I have nothing against her, Your Honor.
Of course not. You shouldn't. The only thing that you both suffer from is from terrible judgment. You understand that the lady standing next to you has certain questions to ask you about what kind of character you have after today.
Well, ma'am, I'm an Eagle Scout, and I try to be as forthright and honest with her about a lot of these issues.
He never was honest with me. I found that out just recently.
He's an Eagle Scout.
Doesn't mean I'm perfect.
They're going to take your badges away from you, Mr. Stevens. How much did it cost you to clean up your car?
Well, we kept using different methods to get the paint off, but I've got estimates. It's practically down to the metal because 3 times getting paint off, it takes it away. So I got 2 estimates, and an estimate from Hertz weeks on renting a car while it's getting fixed.
Did you get the paint off your garage door, Mr. Stevens?
Yes, ma'am, I did. I used some chemicals, but it's left it down to taking the top coating off.
So I think you ought to get a can of paint. And while you're painting, I think you should keep repeating to yourself, I cannot tell a lie, I will always tell the truth. I am an Eagle Scout. See what kind of trouble you cause when you're not honest with people?
Ma'am, I've tried to be honest throughout this ordeal.
No. Let me explain something to you, Mr. Stevens. If you told this lady back in January and February that you were no longer interested in a relationship with her, and she could not accept that, that would have been her problem. But if you were waffling around until you found something better and took her away on a camping trip, and then the following weekend either shared her bed or allowed her to share yours with a view towards perhaps I have nothing better to do this weekend, that means that what you are doing is you are playing fast and loose with somebody else's emotions. And that, sir, is very cruel. And then when you meet this lady, you give her a whole bunch of junk, painting a picture to her that is not accurate, because I'm sure that when she was suffering this damage to her car, you were telling her, I don't know what's wrong with her. I broke up with her in December. That's 7 months ago. She just can't accept it. She didn't know that you were leading her on over the course of the next 6 or 7 months, up until a couple of months before this happened. She didn't know that. That's not being honest, sir. And sometimes damage comes from not being honest. So I suggest you go out there and get yourself a can of paint, put on some jeans, and paint your garage doors. You get $1,400 to paint your car. Judgment for the plaintiff, and your counterclaim is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Obviously, there's a relationship that broke apart and someone couldn't let go.
It destroyed me because my plans were to marry him.
I don't think I got the whole truth from either one of them.
Sort of painted me today like I was very untruthful and not upfront and honest.
He lied not only to me, but his new girlfriend.
I feel like I'm a victim in this.
My advice to her is she needs to check out someone's history thoroughly before jumping in bed with them.
I shouldn't have to live in fear where someone's going to come by, destroy my property, and come over at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I hope this is the end of it.
19-year-old student Kristen Carmichael is suing her mother, homemaker Catherine Welp, for cashing in savings bonds purchased for her by her great-grandmother. Kristen also claims her mother owes for an unpaid loan.
Now, this is case number 280 on the calendar in the matter of Carmichael versus Welk.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Miss Carmichael, this is your mother.
Yes.
How old are you?
19.
Had you always lived with your mother?
Yes.
Until when?
Last September, the end of last September.
According to your complaint, your mother owes you $5,000. $2,000 of that represents money that she allegedly stole from you because she cashed in some savings bonds that had been purchased for you by your great-grandmother.
Yes.
She cashed in those bonds and used the money.
Yes.
And in addition, you say that you loaned your mother $3,000 in order to secure the services of an attorney. She was going through a divorce or separation from her husband. Shortly thereafter, she reconciled with him, and she never gave you the money back. Your mother says she used the money as her grandmother would have wanted her to use it, the money from your bonds, and that the $3,000 that she acknowledges that you gave her for an attorney was a gift. That's your defense. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. When did Kristen's great-grandmother purchase these bonds for her?
She began purchasing them in 1990.
She purchased them for any of her other great-grandchildren?
Yes.
How many?
The 2 other children.
Your 2 other children?
Mm-hmm.
How old are those children?
Amanda, that's sitting there.
Is how old?
She's 23, and my youngest is 11.
When did you cash in Kristen's bonds, and why?
It was right after my grandmother had passed away. She passed away on March the 9th, 2000.
And why did you cash in Kristen's bonds?
Because at the time that my grandmother passed away, her estate went into probate and they froze all the accounts. I did not have the funds to pay for her funeral situation.
2000 is when your grandmother died. How many children benefited from her estate, ultimately?
I did.
You. And in what amount?
When it finished.
When it finished.
That was December 30th. There was
go ahead.
Okay, there was approximately $20,000.
Did you use your other two children's bonds?
The bonds were kept. As far as I know, 2 other bonds from my youngest daughters were used. My oldest daughter had already cashed all of her bonds.
How much did you get for your this daughter's bonds?
I do not recall. I don't have the paper for it.
I do.
Can I see it, please?
Yes.
$17 bonds, each with a $100 face value. And if held to maturity, which would have been a couple of years from now, they would have been worth $1,700. So now you had an emergency. Let us assume, Miss Welk, you had an emergency. And while I'm not condoning the fact that you took your daughter's bonds and cashed them in at a much lesser value than you would have gotten had they been held to maturity, why didn't you replace them when you got $20,000 from your grandmother's estate?
At the time that all of this occurred, we had all of these other things going on. When all of this changed, we also had no place to live. The house was sold because it was in this whole situation. We then had to move, taking Kristen with us. After all of that was done, I didn't even remember this entire situation until this divorce situation came up in 2003.
Well, you owe us $1,700, period, for the bonds. Outrageous. Your conduct is outrageous. That's one. Number two, your daughter says that she loaned you $3,000. Why did you loan your mother $3,000?
Because her and my stepfather were going, he served her with papers for divorce, and I wanted to help her out. She came to me and asked me to borrow $3,000.
Where did you get $3,000 from?
I got it. I worked at a gymnastics place, and I got money from there, and my father died, and I received Social Security checks every month.
Do you put the Social Security checks away?
Yes, I put them into my bank account.
Let me see the bank account.
That's the bank statements.
On June 18th, she transferred $3,000 into your checking account. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that was for the purposes of securing an attorney in your matrimonial case?
Correct.
And then, according to your answer, within a week, you and your husband reconciled.
Right.
Why didn't you give her back the money?
Because first of all, it wasn't a loan. She gave that to me hoping to be able to end this situation and move us back to Stockton where her friends were.
Just a second. Did you come to her and ask her for money to go to an attorney?
No, ma'am.
What was the $3,000 to be used for?
It was used for the attorney.
Just a second. Are you telling me that you gave the attorney $3,000 and within a week's time the attorney would not give you back the $3,000? Is that what you're telling me?
I can show you what he...
No, listen to me very carefully. Don't show me anything. Are you telling me that she gave you the $3,000 for the purposes of securing an attorney, that you gave the attorney a retainer of $3,000, within days you reconciled with your husband, and are you telling me the attorney did not give you your retainer or most of it back? I'm going to call the attorney.
I have it right
I'm
now.
going to call the attorney because you understand, don't you, that that would be unethical for the attorney to have kept the $3,000 if the attorney did no work.
He returned $889 of the $3,000, and I have his bill here if you would like to see how he used it.
Sure, give it to me. Well, let me ask you this question. How much of the $800 that you claimed the attorney gave you back did you give to your daughter? I asked you a question. How much of the $800 that he gave you back did you give to your daughter?
I didn't.
You're some piece of work.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Children take from their parents. Parents don't take from their children.
And later today,
when I found out that he was having a baby with the other lady, I asked him if he was going to be with me or her, and he couldn't tell me.
You couldn't make up your mind.
Correct.
Couldn't find your mind.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 19-year-old Kristen Carmichael says her mother, Catherine Welk, cashed in savings bonds purchased for her by her great-grandmother. Catherine says Kristen gave her that money.
Is this June 18th, 2003 or 2004 that you gave this money to your mother?
2003.
2003. And your mother says that within a couple of days, or within a week, she reconciled with her husband. Then what is all this stuff here from September of 2003 from the attorney? If you reconciled with your husband, why is he still doing things in September of 2003?
I questioned him also.
Oh, give me a break. Give me a break. Has absolutely nothing to do with this case. You owe your daughter $3,000. For that, you owe your daughter $1,700 for the bonds. $4,700. Listen. Children take from their parents. Parents don't take from their children. You're supposed to, if you bury your grandmother, it's your responsibility. It's not her responsibility. If you get the money back, which you did, which you clearly did, immediately, if you had an emergency, you reimburse your daughter. And if you're having a problem with your husband, and if your daughter is nice enough to give you money because you asked for it, for an attorney, and if within a week you reconcile, then you say, honey, here's your $3,000 back that you've been working for. I wouldn't take that money from you, instead of giving her a whole bunch of excuses. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,700.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That was my money that I loaned to my mom.
I didn't come to her asking for it. She gave it to me.
She needed to pay me back.
And all it's done is teach me a lesson that my youngest daughter will pay the price for this daughter.
We got into an argument over something absolutely ridiculous, and we got into a confrontation, and she kicked me out.
It's very difficult. I have worried day in and day out since she left our house, not knowing where she is or how she is. She does not care about any of us.
I would like us to have a mother-daughter relationship, but I don't know.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Clark versus Muir. Step forward, please.
34-year-old loan officer Diana Clark is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old landscaper Brian Muir, for an unpaid loan for bail. Brian says it wasn't a loan, but rather a very nice gesture.
How old are you, Miss Clark?
34.
Do you work?
Yes, I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a loan officer.
Ever been married?
Yes.
Have any kids?
Yes.
How many?
2.
Do they live with you?
Yes, they do.
You their sole support?
Yes.
You're a nice-looking woman.
Thank you.
Got nice dimples. How old are you?
24.
He's too young for you.
Yeah.
Even when they're 34, they don't know much.
I agree.
But when they're 24, they know less. What do you do for a living?
I'm a landscaper.
Who do you live with?
My daughters,
How old are your daughters?
5 and 6,
Where is their mother?
not around.
For how long?
About a year now.
Who helps you care for your children while you're landscaping?
Their grandmother.
Okay. Miss Clark, according to you, you loaned Mr. Muir $500 for bail because they were going to come and arrest him unless he sort of liquidated some warrants that he had for something that I'm going to find out.
Correct.
And you were dating at the time.
Yes.
He paid you back a little bit?
A little bit.
But he didn't pay you back the whole thing, and then he stopped taking your calls. Mr. Muir says that it was a nice gesture on your part, but not a loan. That's your defense. Is that
Correct,
right?
ma'am.
Why did you need bail, sir?
Well, I had got into some trouble. I had got into a fight in my neighborhood. And the result of it, they put a warrant out for my arrest for 3rd-degree assault and breach of peace. And
Why did they put a warrant out? Did you not go to court when you were supposed to?
not right away, ma'am.
No. Did you expect an engraved invitation this next time?
No.
Did you expect someone to come in your house in a tuxedo, perhaps, and bring you over to jail? You just decided to blow it off.
No, I was waiting until I was financially stable to take care of.
You were waiting until you felt like it.
No, I was waiting until I was financially stable.
Financially stable. And when did you think that was going to be, Mr. Muir?
Well, I had just started a new job, so I planned on doing it as soon as possible.
How did Miss Clark find out there was a warrant outstanding for you?
It was brought up in a conversation that we were having at a friend's house.
And when you told her about the warrant, Mr. Muir, what did you say?
I just said, I have a warrant, and I have to turn myself in.
And she said?
And she said, anytime you want to turn yourself in, I'll be glad to help you out.
How much later did you call and tell her you needed her help?
It wasn't but a few days.
So a few days later you called her, or you went to see her and told her, well, I'm ready to turn myself in, I need your help?
Well, I was over a friend's house, and when she came over there, I told her that I was going to turn myself in, and that's when she offered to bail me out, Your Honor.
How did you know that he needed bail money when he turned himself in?
He called me from the bail bondsman's phone.
Really?
Yes.
You forgot about that.
Actually, Your Honor, I did not call her from the bail bondsman's phone. The bail bondsman lives next door to my friend. And I had talked to him beforehand, and I had let him know that if I needed to be bonded out, that I was going to use him.
Go ahead, Miss Clark.
No, he called me from the bail bondsman's phone and said that he was at his home and he was going to be turning himself in. Could I go ahead and bail him out like I had told him I would do?
When did he make his first payments to you?
April 16th.
And when did you bail him out?
April 13th.
And how much did he give you on April 16th?
$50.
When did he make his next payment to you?
April 23rd.
How much?
$40. There was, just so you know, there wasn't a previous amount that I had loaned him also. So that part of what I have written down here was applied to what he owed me previous to that as well.
What did you lend him money for in the past?
He wanted to go back to his hometown to see his friends for his birthday.
Your Honor, if I may, the money that I did pay her back, she had brought me home to see my friends and family. The money that I did pay her back was the money that she loaned me. She never said I had to pay her back for this bill, Your Honor. I paid her back $130. That's what she loaned me when I went to Boston.
$130?
Yes, ma'am.
How much did he pay you altogether?
$230.
So you gave her $100 in interest?
No, I only gave her $130.
She says you gave her $230.
I only gave her $130, Your Honor.
Are you sure about that?
I'm positive about that.
So that if I find that this was a loan, you owe her $500, not the $370 that she says. Is that right?
That would be correct.
Good. Mr. Meir, did Miss Clark assault anybody?
No, she harassed.
No, just a second.
No,
Did she
ma'am.
assault anybody?
No, ma'am.
Did Miss Clark have a warrant issued for her arrest because she blew off letters from the police?
No, ma'am.
Who did? Raise your hand.
I did.
Raise your hand.
Me.
Higher. Raise your hand all the way
I
up.
did.
What makes you think that she should take care of your bail? She's a working woman. She's got 2 children that she supports. Why in the world would she pay for you and you feel no drive to pay her back as quickly as possible?
She has spent abundance of money on me. Abundance. She took me out for my birthday and spent well over $1,000. If that was the case,
foolish.
If that was the
Foolish,
case,
because I want to tell you something. She must see something in you that I don't.
It's the good looks, Your Honor.
Have you looked in the mirror lately?
Yes, I have.
Mr. Meir, you have 2 children, 2 little children that you say are in your custody because their mother is off somewhere. That means that the only chance your children have of growing up to be responsible adults is if they have you as a responsible parent.
Correct.
You were foolish enough to hook up with somebody who turned out to be a non-parent and dumb enough at your age to make 2 babies. Now it's your responsibility to grow up and fly right. Do I make myself clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $370, because that's all you're suing for. That's all. Out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
She should find somebody her own age and not somebody as young as me.
He's going to say anything he wants to make it look like he's a better person than he really is.
She approached me and she wanted to get together with me, and that's how it started.
Well, we met at our kids' bus stop, and it proceeded from there. Yeah, I did approach him.
To be older, you should know better.
There was a big age difference there, and I should probably not have done anything with him.
Case.
All parties in the matter of Garrett versus Cook. Step forward, please.
Hotel clerk Alan Garrett is suing the mother of his child, 27-year-old student Candace Cook, for the unpaid balance on a Toyota Supra. Candace says shortly after taking ownership, the engine died.
Mr. Garrett, the defendant is your former girlfriend and you have a child together. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Well, we weren't boyfriend and girlfriend, but we had a relationship, yes.
Well, you weren't her math teacher, right?
No, ma'am.
You weren't her plumber. right?
No, ma'am.
In a classic sense. You had a relationship. She was a girlfriend or something.
Yes, ma'am.
You had a child together.
Yes, ma'am.
You have custody of that child.
Yes, ma'am.
And you've always had custody of that child.
Yes, ma'am.
How old is the child?
A year and a half.
Boy or a girl?
Boy.
According to your complaint, you sold Miss Cook a car.
Correct.
Back in March. It was an old car, a car that you were not using. You sold her the car for $600.
Correct.
And she acknowledges that that's what happened, correct?
Yes, he gave me a car. Well, I mean, he did give it to me, but it was agreed to pay for it eventually.
You don't have any other children, do you?
I have an older child, yes.
Where is that child?
With my mother.
How old is that child?
9.
What do you do?
I'm a student at this time. I'm just now getting back to school and trying to get things together.
Where are you a student?
I'm at the Richland Community College.
Anyway, in March you sold her the car for how much, sir?
$600.
And according to what I read in your complaint, you did that because she wasn't visiting your son regularly and you really wanted her to be able to visit him.
Correct.
She had the car from March, is that right? Until September, is that right?
Yes, around that
I mean, are you together? Is there something wrong?
We're not. No, I'm just... He didn't said it wasn't for visit. It was because he said he wanted me to get a job and everything else.
Job would be nice here.
And so, you know,
job would be nice. What do you do? You have 2 children. Somebody else takes care of both of your children. You should be working. Who's this?
This is my roommate.
This is your roommate. Do you work?
Yes, I do.
Good. What kind of a job do you have?
I'm a computer technician.
What are your hours of work?
It's usually afternoon 1 to 10 p.m.
That's a full day. Do you have, I'm speaking, do you have children?
No, I do not.
So you support yourself?
Yes.
That's what people do when they have themselves to take care of, or in your roommate's case, when she has 2 children that are being supported by other people. They get a job. Now you can sit down. Perfect. Now, she ran the car and had the car in her possession until September, when, according to you, what happened to the car?
The engine blew, so I parked it. And then I called him and said, it's calling. I'm going to call a junkyard. And then once I get that money, I'll give you the money that I get from the junkyard. Well, I get a call from some guy I don't even know, never met, never anything, saying he's going to come get the car that Alan told him to come and get it. So that's where it turns up. I gave the car to somebody else. I don't even have
somebody
it.
to pick up the car?
A friend of mine that I had originally got the car from expressed interest in it. I told him the story about what had happened to it. For whatever reason, he was interested in the car. I said, well, if you want to talk to her about it, I'll give you her phone number. And I passed that information along so he could call her.
But he didn't give you the car. Did he give you any money for the car?
No, ma'am.
No. So you're at your $600, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good, good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600. That's all. Get a job.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I thought the judgment was fair, kind of what I expected.
Well, I don't agree with it because his friend has the car.
Went quick, there wasn't much to say.
I drove the car for a while, but he wasn't driving it anyway.
I'm pretty poor and I needed my money.
We'll probably still be friends.
I have no hard feelings at all.
Now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Callahan versus Colarusso, step forward, please.
Business owner Dawn Callahan is suing her father's ex-girlfriend, homemaker Dee Colarusso, for the return of her late mother's desk. Dee claims the desk was abandoned.
Miss Callahan, Miss Colarusso is your father's former girlfriend.
Correct.
According to your complaint, your father has a desk that belonged to your mother, who passed away, and the desk was to be yours. He was bringing it to you. And he stopped over at his girlfriend's house, and for some reason he left his truck there for a while, and the desk. They subsequently broke up. She has your desk. You want it back.
Yes.
You have a picture of the desk?
No, I don't.
Do you?
No, certainly.
I'd like to see it, please. Oh, it's a pretty little lady's desk.
Yes.
Where is it, in your living room?
No, it's upstairs in my bedroom.
How long do you know Miss Callahan?
I'd say approximately a year and a half. Year.
Is she a nice person?
At times.
When did your mother pass away?
April 26, 2002.
Was this her desk?
Yes, it was.
Did you tell Miss Colarusso that it was your mother's desk?
Yes, I did.
When did she tell you that?
To my recollection, I had never heard anything about it except that Lynn moved it into my home 2 months after he moved into my home.
He did?
Yes, and left it in my garage.
Yes.
It proceeded to get mildew, all kinds of markings, and all the rest of it. I had a couple of friends come in, empty it out, put the stuff into a green bag to lighten it so they could move it upstairs into my upstairs apartment, and they did so. So no, it's been receiving much better care.
Well, that's very nice, but it's not your desk.
Well, I consider it storage fee.
I don't care what you consider it. You had a storage arrangement with him?
No.
Well, if you didn't have a storage arrangement with him, my dear, then you can't say I'm taking the desk for storage fee.
I took his car for storage fee.
Listen to me very carefully. It doesn't belong to you. It's not your desk. Romance is over. It's over. You can't just decide you're going to protect the property that doesn't belong to you and then say, somebody says, I want my desk back. You say, well, I took it upstairs and I've been taking care of it, so now it's mine. You have to give her back the desk 5 days from today. Make arrangements with the mover. You want to leave the desk upstairs and have her mover bring it downstairs, or you want your mover to bring it downstairs?
Who says it's her desk?
I do! Now, that's her father. Whose desk is it?
My daughter's desk.
Right. Belonged to her mother. She wants her mother's desk, but she doesn't want you to have it. And it holds absolutely no sentimental value for you whatsoever. Just mad value because you're not together with the prize package anymore. She gets a desk back in 5 days. I'll sign the order. That's it.
Excuse me?
What?
My paperwork, all my mother's legal paperwork that was inside there, 401ks and everything.
I don't know where that is. Where is it?
Gone.
What did you do with it?
It went out with the trash. All the trash that Lenny had dumped.
It's gone. Listen to me. It's probably gone. She's not nice. She's probably mad. Did he dump her?
In a nice way.
I don't care whether it's a nice way. It's never a nice way to a lady to get dumped. Did he dump her?
Yes.
That's what she did with your mother's stuff that was inside the desk.
Okay.
Dumped it. Got it?
Okay.
The desk